Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday, December 19th, 2025. This is a regular meeting of the Commissioners of the City Hall on the second floor of Commissioners Room. I'm sorry. With that, I call this meeting to order exactly 2 o'clock p.m. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll let the record show that the mayor and commissioners are here in the full complement, so we are in a quorum and able to formally conduct business today. I'd also like to recognize that City Manager Taylor Tedder is with us, City Solicitor Lisa Warren Ogden is with us, and Evan Miller, Assistant, he's hidden behind the podium over there. Thank you all for being here. I'd also like to thank everybody that's here watching virtually on the cameras. And I'd like to thank everybody who's here in person. I want to remind everybody that we welcome comments, and there's rules at the bottom of the agenda. And I want to emphasize that there's a 3-minute restriction, time limit. So do your planning ahead of time so that you can adhere to that. With that, I want to remind everybody that support documents, those are documents that support our individual agenda items, are embedded in the agenda. If you go online and access the agenda, you can access those support documents. And lastly, my initial notes indicate that the audit topic, we're going to change the ordering, and it's just going to come a little sooner than later. The audit topic will be in front of Old Business A, and it's currently labeled New Business 16A, just to get the folks done with and out of here. With that, I'd like to have the City Manager Taylor Tedder join me up front, and we'd like to recognize Bert Dukes. Bert, if you would come up. Or you take that's fine.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Taylor Tedder, City Manager, and we're here with our Finance Director, Bert Dukes. He's retiring at the end of the year, and just really wanted to express my gratitude for everything that Bert has done for the city. He joined the city during kind of a difficult time around the Great Recession, around 2008. As a consultant, and I think you were supposed to work a day or two a week, and eventually worked every day of the week. And Bert has seen the city go from having just $1 million in fund balance to over $30 million we have today, thanks to his excellent financial planning and working with our elected officials and other administration folks before me. So I'm going to go ahead and give this over to the mayor.
Thank you. And I want to remind you that he's been here 17 years, but before that, he served for, I think, over 6 years on the city's planning commission. He's also a resident in town and owns property in town. So, Bert, we've got something special for you. Let me take it out. I'm going to read it there. Presented to Bert Dukes. With distinguished honor, we are proud to present this award for your exemplary service and unwavering dedication to the success of the City of Rehoboth Beach 2018 to 2026. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Say a few words?
Anything?
Just say a couple of words. I want to thank the city and the staff. When I arrived, I knew the staff somewhat, but I wanted to make sure there was compatibility because you have somebody coming in and maybe making suggestions that you may or may not like. So I was here about a month just kind of seeing if we were compatible, and it was a great staff. I mean, and we accomplished a lot, and so I'm very thankful for the people that we've had here to work with. So thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is correspondence. Correspondence has been received electronically and is embedded in the agenda, so we don't read that. With that, we'll move on to approval of minutes. We've got 3 sets of minutes noted in the agenda. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Then I would take a motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes before us.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes in front of us and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and those 3 sets of minutes are approved. Thank you very much. We'll move right on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good afternoon. Now that we have recognized Bert as he prepares for retirement, I would also like to welcome Julia Johnson, our new Finance Director, if you want to raise your hand. So Julia joined us earlier this week and will be working closely with Bert through the beginning of the year to ensure a smooth transition. And she recently served as controller for Kings Creek Country Club and brings experience in public accounting as well as local government. Julia is a certified public accountant in the state of Delaware and holds a master's degree in business administration, as well as a bachelor's degree in accounting from Wilmington University. Originally from Latvia, she has called Delaware home since 2002, and we are very pleased to welcome her to the city. It is with a heavy heart that I would also like to acknowledge the passing of Dr. Jerome Lewis this week. Dr. Lewis was the founding director of the University of Delaware's Master of Public Administration program and the founder of the Institute for Public Administration. He led work in conflict resolution, civic engagement, education, health, local government training, regional development and planning, transportation, and water resources management. He also established the Legislative Fellows Program, which gives University of Delaware students the opportunity to observe and assist legislators here in Delaware. And Dr. Lewis will always be remembered as a visionary and thought leader, and most importantly, as a mentor to generations of students and public service leaders at the local, state, and federal levels. Finally, a reminder that city offices will be closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. City Hall will remain open on other days, though staffing will be a little bit lighter as our employees take time to enjoy the holidays with their families. We wish everyone here and those watching a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year. Thank you for your dedicated support, and we look forward to what 2026 might bring. And I'm here for any questions you may have.
Any commissioners, questions, Commissioner? If not, we'll move right on to city solicitor's report. There is none. We're going to move right on to departmental reports. As you can see, there are several reports already embedded in the agenda. Again, access those online. And with that, we'll move on to departmental reports, a departmental briefing from Building and Licensing Code Enforcement, including reporting on restaurant permit of compliance and grease trap inspection program. Corey?
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners and members of the public. I'm Corey Shinko, Director of Building and Licensing. With me is Paul Hignut, Supervisor of the Wastewater Department. Goal here today is just to read you a brief of our inspection results from 2025 this year for alcohol permit of compliance, supplemental permit of compliance, as well as grease trap inspections. So as background, in August of 2025 this year, the city publicly announced that Building and Licensing, along with the Wastewater Department, would implement a standardized inspection program beginning September 8th, jointly as a joint venture. As a result of this program, we successfully carried out the city's first citywide permit of compliance inspection initiative and reinstated a comprehensive fats, oils, and greases compliance cycle for the first time in many years, with code enforcement and wastewater department working together. During this inspection period, the city evaluated permanent compliance and fog compliance across a total of 111 restaurants. So that's how many we have in the city on record. Out of those 111, 64 are food with alcohol establishments and 47 are food only. As far as the food with alcohol establishments go, we were able to inspect 60 out of the 64 establishments, about 94% of them. Out of those 60 that we inspected, 5 failed and have been working and are currently working with the city to rectify those issues. In addition to those 60 with the food with alcohol, 58 of those were also inspected for grease trap inspections, and they all had 100% pass rates. Out of the 47 food-only establishments, 10 of those were able to be inspected with 1 fail. Coverage of food-only establishments was more limited this cycle, largely due to staff scheduling constraints and seasonal operating hours of many locations. We are evaluating options with the wastewater department to expand inspection coverage for the 2026 cycle. And beyond enforcement, this effort allowed us staff to reintroduce the inspection program, build the relationships with the restaurant owners and staff, which is why we chose to do it this year as more of a helpful approach to them, to allow them to work with us on issues. So we move into 2026, everyone kind of knows the rules. And that provides a pathway towards full compliance going forward. So beginning in 2026 and continuing each year thereafter, all permanent compliance, supplemental permanent compliance, and fats, oils, and grease inspections will be conducted before the start of the season, ensuring the restaurants are in compliance going into our busiest period of the year, and we're proactive rather than after the season is already done, reacting to issues. And I expect that we'll be back most likely once a year or annually to give you all the results of each year moving forward. That's what we have. We'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions among the commissioners? If not, we'll move on. Thank you, Corey. Thank you. The next on the agenda is board and commission reports. We have 2 reports received electronically, and they're embedded in the agenda. Next on our agenda list is committee reports, including possible consideration of approving future advisory committee agenda topics. I'd like to make a statement. As we soon offer opportunities for public comment, I'd like to remind everybody to please wait to be acknowledged by the chair and given the floor. This applies to the commissioners also, of course. When a member of the public is recognized, then please come to the center microphone, state your name and address or relationship to the city, and direct your remarks to the board up here, not to other individuals, and keep your comments focused on the topic at hand. A reminder that everyone gets 3 minutes so we can hear as many voices as possible. And the countdown clock is on the wall above the one monitor, and it will beep when time is up. Thank you in advance for monitoring that yourself and for stopping at the appropriate time. And of course, we want to keep it respectful so all perspectives can be shared and heard. Thank you very much. With that, Mark, we'll go to you as chair of the City Streets and Safety Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as you may know, the City Streets and Safety Committee has been active now for several months. We took the opportunity to meet and to discuss some items that had been brought before the commissioners, namely the subject of possibly synchronizing the dates at which we apply some of our regulations. And number 2, we were asked to discuss and to look into some street calming, traffic calming difficulties that we've been having, with special emphasis on a number of our streets being State, Columbia, Bayard, and Henlopen. So we did meet, and we had come up with a report to give you today on 2 of those subjects. However, we very recently, within the last 48 hours, have been given some further information. We've made contact with a gentleman from DelDOT who has very kindly offered to meet with me and to maybe give us some insight into what some other towns with similar problems have done. So I think it would be unwise for us to present to the commissioners the suggestions that we have already discussed and come up with without at least listening to what the Del Dot folks have to say and to adding those possible ideas into our discussion. So that said, we're going to go ahead with part one of what we had planned to discuss today, which is synchronizing the implementation dates of additional city functions. And I've given each of the commissioners a copy of the current little chart. Interestingly, most of our dates are currently, along with the parking and the permits, meters and permits, running from May 15th until September 15th. But there are a few that are sort of on their own, and we would suggest that the following be brought in line. I'm just going to read these quickly, and if anybody has any comments up here, just let me know. So we would suggest, based on the committee and public discussions, review of the correspondence, reviews of professional traffic studies, which includes the Rossi report done for the city within this past year, we, the committee, make the following advisory recommendations to the City of Rehoboth Beach Board of Commissioners. 1, we recommend the adoption of 2 seasons, in-season to be annually from May 15th to September 15th, and off-season to be annually from September 16th to May 14th. These dates shall govern the following activities: parking, both meters and permits, cars and scooters, no changes to the time of day, only to the dates in the month, skateboard and scooter, roller skate and roller blade prohibitions, bicycles on the boardwalk. I'm sorry?
You could, as you go through these, just,
Yep.
thank you. If you could just,
There.
thank you, Mayor. If you could just identify the ones that are currently in that May 15th, December 15th, and the ones that are not, right? So
Certainly.
like parking for, thank you.
Certainly. I can tell you very easily, so far, all of those have been, and I'll let you know when we go otherwise.
Okay, great.
Bicycles on the boardwalk and bicycles on city streets and sidewalks, construction activity, including awarding of permits, dumpster rules, use of pile drivers, demolition, and moving of structures more than 750 feet. Now, those are all currently from the May 15th to September 15th. The following differ, and commissioners have the advantage of having the rules, and you'll see exactly what they differ from. The first one to be changed would be allowance of dogs on beach and boardwalk. No change to any rules except the start and stop dates. Prohibition of seasonal overnight parking on Queen Street, Prospect, and East Lake Street. To be clear, we're not changing the rules, only the dates that they would apply. Certain turns onto and off of Rehoboth Avenue, those would be 1st, 2nd Street, which currently, they vary a little bit. Let me see what the current ones are. May 14th to September 30th is the current dates on those. Sleeping on the beach, as I said, and prohibiting smoking except in designated areas. Currently, the rule in smoking is there are 20 designated areas where smoking is allowed, except from the September 15th to May 15th, under which conditions it would be allowed anywhere. We are further suggesting that the sleeping on the beach, no smoking except in designated areas, and prohibiting of certain turns under Rehoboth Avenue be made as an annual date. In other words, it'd be all year. There would be no off and on season. It would be always on season. Everybody with me on that? Does it all
Time for
year-
a
right.
question, Mr. Mayor, to Commissioner.
Commissioner, good?
Thank you. I know this will likely be a dissenting view, but let's just, for background, we had a $200,000 consultant whom we taxpayers and visitors funded, $200,000, which recommended the parking season be May 1st to October 31st. Note that Lewis is May 1st to October 15th, and I believe May 1st to September 30th on their beaches. So we're ignoring, we spent $200,000, we might as well have little matched that money, which doesn't feel very good. So I would advocate, before we, do this two-season calendar, with the exception of construction activity, because I think it would pose a hardship to developers not to be able to commence demolitions and that sort of thing, dumpsters, later than September 16th. So that and that's like those aren't common occurrences. So I think the developers who are undertaking major industrial construction can manage to have a different date than this. So I would strongly advocate that your committee start looking at what the consultant told us. I mean, we have huge demand for parking weekends in early May and in late September. And it's people circling, and it's just the way you solve congestion like that is by asking people to pay. And then they don't park for 10 hours. They choose to come in for 2 or 3 hours. In fact, the spaces turn over more. I believe the businesses might actually end up making more revenue because of more customers, short-term customers, rather than people who arrive on like a Saturday in late September with their coolers and park themselves on the beach if it happens to be 80 degrees that day. So I also am wary of allowing dogs on the beach as soon as September 16th for the following reason. I was on the boardwalk this morning, although it was drizzling. Unfortunately, a number of dog owners, and a lot of them come from out of town. This is the first major walk for the dog. I used to own a dog. I'm familiar with how it goes. So I object to how many of them are inconsiderate and do not pick up after their dog on the boardwalk, currently October 1st to April 30th, with a few sort of outliers who don't obey the rules and have the dogs there, you know, when dogs currently aren't allowed. So that would be my hope, and I sure hope that Rossi's study was not $200,000 of completely wasted taxpayer resources, but so far it has proven to be just that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Saunders, let me interject real quick. I want to make sure we know where we're going or not going. You know, your city streets and advisory, up on the monitor there was embedded in the agenda. Your chart here was just handed out at this meeting, so we'll get this chart embedded in the agenda after the fact. And then where I just want to make sure you know we're going is I don't expect or intend to take a vote today on this, because I think there's more, needs to be time to cogitate and have maybe the chief of police say something and et cetera. So just so you know, that's not where I'm intending to go. Commissioner Saunders?
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Good. I just wanted to let you know that all of those items had been discussed by the committee, and the committee decided otherwise.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me in the least.
That none of them were, I just wanted to, and again, the dates, the main objective was to synchronize the dates so that we don't have this date for that and that date for the next thing. If at a later time this board decides to change the dates in general, they would all change together. At least that's what we would hope.
I'm in favor of the synchronization.
Commissioner Good?
And have been for years,
Commissioner
by the
Good,
way.
do you want the floor?
Yes, please. So I would, just to clarify, in fact, I've been advocating that the dates be synchronized since 2019. That's 6 years ago, if only because I've heard people like dog owners claiming to the police that they didn't realize, they thought since the parking had come off on September 15th, that their dogs are now allowed. Now, is that true or not true? Who knows? But I feel for the police, for instance, and in general, just to avoid confusion, the signage with the two different dates, September 15th, September 30th, has been a bad policy for many years. So yes, I applaud efforts to align the seasons like into one, two different seasons with, as I said, with the exception, I think developers need to get underway September 16th because they're up against a deadline, right before May 15th. And depriving them of September 16th to 30th would not be prudent in my view for their demolition and bringing in the equipment and everything.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mayor, if I could, please.
Commissioner Thier?
Yeah, so Mark, I just want to confirm what I wrote down here. So the items that when it comes down to it, the items that you're looking for changes are on, dogs on the beach, okay? The seasonal overnight parking, okay? So that would actually be shortened, because if I wrote down correctly, that goes through the end of September, would be shortened. And then with the remaining, the final three that I'm looking at here, right? Certain terms, sleeping on the beach, smoking, change those to annual. So they wouldn't be seasonal, they would just be annual, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the only two comments I would have is, the seasonal overnight parking on Queen Prospect, East Lake, that affects, a small subset of the population. So I'd like to make sure we understand how those residents feel about shortening that season. So that's one, and you don't have to answer that question now. And then,
Have that answer.
okay, and then the second one is more would be around dogs on the beach, and I think the mayor already covered this. We're gonna hear from the chief. I'd like to hear from Captain Giles as well, or maybe we hear from Captain Giles through the chief. My concern with dogs on the beach when the lifeguards are still there, because my concern is specific that their eyes need to be on the beach, not on worrying about dogs or being bothered about dogs. So that would be my main concern as it relates to that. So thank you, Mayor, appreciate it.
Thank you. What I'd like to interject here is that this shows the importance of the committee reports, bringing them forward to the commissioners. I'd say that at this point, the topic has now been given to the commissioners, and that we wait until this is noticed on a future agenda and take it up at that time.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
There had been discussion, I believe, in the spring, that at the end of 2025, ahead of the 2026 season, there would be a discussion about the parking dates. And I have emailed you, as I think you're aware, and have not gotten an answer. Are we going to, because I know every year we have the issue that the Chamber of Commerce needs advance warning of the rules ahead of publication of their brochure. And they have told us for several years in a row that February 15th is their sort of firm deadline for that. So is there a timeline for that?
The answer is no, it's not on our radar.
Okay,
With
thank
that,
you.
I'd like to move this to a
Mayor,
future
can I
agenda.
just-
Commissioner Galandi?
A couple of questions. Thanks. First of all, Commissioner Saunders, thanks for the work that your advisory committee has been doing. I also really appreciate you taking a pause on some of the elements in this report. I think, hearing from the experts is a wise path forward, and I look forward to that discussion. Quick question. When this comes back, can we get a clear breakout of the turns on and off Rehoboth Avenue embedded into?
They're actually listed in your chart.
They are, okay, I didn't go through that, okay. Well, I will look at that, thank you. And then the second thing is on the prohibition of seasonal overnight parking, is it both sides of Queen, or is it just one side of
It's
Queen?
a portion of one side.
It's a portion of one
Can I-
side,
may I go
okay.
ahead and explain
Well,
that?
I'm trying, I've suggested perhaps not strong enough that this needs to go to a future agenda. And so I'd rather get to a stopping point, if you don't mind, and move on to the next item. So we've received your report with your extra thing that we will embed in the agenda and take this up on a future agenda. Thank you very much. With that, the next on the agenda are the community partner reports, and electronically received the Chamber of Commerce, Main Street, and Public Library reports. And I want to thank them, Kate, and thank you all for being here. Oh, I'd like to thank you for that, and go back 1 minute to the Environmental Advisory Committee report. Again, what I'm trying to establish here, this is because this is new, is that we're here to receive the report from the committee and not get into substantial discussion until it's on a future agenda. So, Commissioner Thayer, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So my purpose today with my agenda item is to request that informal approval, as we do for the Environmental Advisory Committee, to discuss artificial turf pervious grass. In my conversations with the city manager about potential future agenda items, things that had come up from our committee, discussing things that they are discussing internally. This is an item that they were already working on. Corey Shinko had drafted an ordinance around artificial turf, let's call it, pervious grass. So I'm looking for that informal approval. What we've agreed to is that the committee would review that ordinance, provide feedback to Corey on the ordinance, and then look to move it forward. So again, just looking for that informal approval today for the Environmental Advisory Committee to discuss this item. Thank you.
Are there any objections to moving forward? No, go ahead.
Mayor, if no objection on my part. I just was curious if this would also extend into further discussions about pervious and impervious surfaces, since this kind of touches on it, but there's greater definition or greater materials that fall into both of those categories. And I don't think we really, or the current definition in our code really doesn't meet what builders and designers are currently using. So if the committee could also expand that to look a little closer into pervious versus impervious and definition of what falls into those categories.
Yeah, so I'm not going to ask for that today beyond pervious grass. Okay, yeah, so.
Saying that would be a next step.
Yeah, so again, in my mind, and I think members of the committee, that is their thinking as well. But one of the things I'm trying to do here is keep these items that the committee is going to talk about, tight, so to speak, so that we can move through them expeditiously and move those items forward. So yes, I think that would be something we would do in the future. But today, it's just about pervious grass, to be clear. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you. Commissioner Good, remember,
yeah,
we're not doing substantial discussion.
I just add on to the this pervious discussion. I think more holistically, this is something that I hope your committee will consider. We've been begging this city to adopt best practices like in Dewey Beach, where pervious cover is mandated for driveways and walkways. I only wish that it had been mandated in Rehoboth Beach when our house was built. Our builder would have been forced to choose a pervious cover rather than a concrete driveway. But, this city takes so long to make, reasonable to adopt reasonable best practices. So I hope this committee will consider that. It's the easiest way to mitigate stormwater runoff. Instead, the city hired a consultant and wanted to have a stormwater impact fee, but you can take tangible steps now to reduce stormwater runoff. So I think
Thank
this
you.
should be a priority for that
Thank you.
committee immediately.
Thank you, Commissioner. With that, we're going to start the public hearing. I want to remind everybody the sequence is a little different on the agenda. We have 2 public hearings, and then we'll have the audit topic, and then we'll get back in order with the bandstand concert at that point. So
Thank you, Mayor.
I'm going to turn it over to the city solicitor to explain what the 2 public hearings are and that they have to go in a certain sequence.
Thank you. Today, we will conduct 2 public hearings, a requirement following the request of the applicant, D.F. Quillen & Son, to rezone the parcel of land known as 60 Sussex. The applicant is the owner of what is commonly referred to as the Cultured Pearl Building, which includes 60 Sussex, Lot 61, 81, 101, which touch Sussex Street, 4th Street, Lake Avenue, and a small portion of Rehoboth Avenue. The applicant has requested that 60 Sussex be rezoned from R2 to C1 to reflect the present commercial use of the structure. There are 2 actions that must be taken. I'd like to take a moment to explain why we are taking these steps and where we are discussing a potential amendment to the future land use map before any consideration can be given to a zoning map change. Under Delaware law, specifically 22 Delaware Code Section 702, and under our own city code, all zoning regulations and zoning map amendments must be consistent with the city's comprehensive development plan. The CDP sets out our long-range policy direction for land use, and the future land use map is the part of that plan that identifies how different areas of the city are intended to develop over time. If a property's current future land use designation does not align with the zoning district that is being requested, the city is required to amend the comprehensive plan, and therefore the future land use map, before a zoning map amendment can be considered. The zoning cannot legally be changed first. The plan establishes the policy, and the zoning map implements that policy. Therefore, the process begins with the question of amending the Comprehensive Development Plan future land use map by changing the zoning designation of the property identified as Lot 60 Sussex Street from residential to commercial. Should you vote to approve that change, we will move on to the subject of amending the Rehoboth Beach zoning map by changing the zoning designation of the property identified as Lot 60 Sussex Street from R2 to C1. I would now like to begin the discussion by confirming the appropriate notice was provided. Anne? And place certain documents into the record. Thereafter, we'll hear from Vince Roberts, attorney for the plaintiff, or the applicant. Then we will hear from the public. I will then bring the matter back to you all for discussion and a motion. What you have before you on the screen is the future land use map as contained in the city's comprehensive development plan. In the next slide, you can see why the arrow, the particular property that we are talking about. Pursuant to 29 Delaware Code Section 92035, amendments to this map must go before the Preliminary Land Use Service, or PLUS, for a recommendation. Before you is a letter that was sent to David Edgell, Director of the Office of State Planning, from Mary Ellen Gray, then the Planning and Community Development Director, dated February 1st, 2024, requesting this change. Thereafter, you have the response from Mr. Edgell, dated March 27th, 2025, where it states, according to the application, the parcel is currently being used as commercial, and it appears the rezoning is to match the future land use designation with the use of the property. Therefore, the Office of State Planning Coordination has no objection to this rezoning, provided it meets the relevant codes and ordinances of the town. In addition, the Board of Commissioners had requested that the Planning Commission review this request, and by letter dated September 2nd, 2025, the Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend approval of the request. Regarding the process and the information presented thus far, are there any questions of the commissioners? If not, we'll turn to Vince Robertson on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. I am Vince Robertson. On behalf of the applicant, I'm an attorney with Parkowski, Yerk, and Swayze, and we have offices up and down the state, and my office is in Rehoboth. And just to be clear, my understanding, I'm sorry, maybe I missed it, was that we were going to consolidate both of the hearings into one. I don't really have two presentations because they're all essentially the same, and I would just say ditto for the second. I am here on behalf of D.F. Quillen and Sons, and Denny Quillen's in the back on behalf of the family that owns the property. We don't formally represent Susan Wood and the Cultural Pearl, although she's here as well, and we have cooperated with her and coordinated with this. So I just wanted to put that on the record. The one thing that I especially want to say to everybody here and in the audience and people watching online is that there's no plans to change anything with the Cultured Pearl at all in any way, shape, or form. And we put into the record there's a lease extension actually in place through 2043 that confirms that. But what this is really, we look at it as a minor corrective action. The back end of the property, as you saw from the map that was up in a second, and I'll show again, and actually I can. The back end of the property, and if you look at the inset, it's where the arrow is to the green, is zoned R2. However, the Culture Pearl building sits across commercially zoned and residentially zoned property, which we'll get into in a moment. Why this is happening now is for a couple of reasons. In 2006, when Sussex Street was rezoned, there was concern about how it would impact this property. And at that time, to avoid an appeal and whatever else or upset that rezoning, an MOU was entered into between the Quillen family and the company and the city of Rehoboth Beach. But that was never recorded. It's not a zoning change, even though it effectively tried to say this is fine, it's commercial. It wasn't a change to the zoning map. And I think it's fair to say that nobody really knew it existed. I mean, because we've got a completely different city administration. I think Mr. Gossett was maybe the only elected or appointed official at that time. I don't know if you're on Planning Commission or here, but yeah. And fast forward to now, Dennard Quillen, who was sort of the family patriarch, he's passed away. And so the ownership of the company and that property now is passed to the family. And they took a look at it, and I think they assumed it was zoned commercial, you know? And then we looked at, all right, well, there's this weird MOU out there that sort of addresses it, but not very well. As Ms. Ogden said, we've been through, well, we were in front of you, I think, a year and a half or two ago at this point to try to map out what we needed to do. The direction of the commissioners was to go to the Planning Commission, and sort of as a sideline of that, we had to go to the Office of State Planning Coordination and through Plus. And with the city's cooperation at that point, we went through Plus, as was stated, got a favorable recommendation from OSPC on the change to the future land use map. We went to the Planning Commission as following that, and as is embedded in the record, we have their recommendation that was unanimous for approval. That's in the record. Their only real comment was just to make sure that a public hearing occurred, which is where we are today. So reasons why it's important to get this cleaned up. Everybody here knows where it is, but this shows the building and the property. This is sort of the patio up top. If you look at the aerial, it actually looks like that's at ground level, but as we all know, these are the gazebos up top that are really enjoyable for dinner. But the portion that's zoned residential is back here where the arrow is. The reason, I think, why this was important in 2006 is because, as you can see, the properties to the east of this on Sussex were undeveloped. There's sort of almost looks like a garage building there. And other than that, they're vacant. And my understanding and recollection, the city wanted to make sure that Sussex Street as a whole stayed predominantly residential. The problem was that the Cultured Pearl building, which was Quillen's Hardware at the time, got caught up in all of that. And that led to the MOU. Currently, that concern is less so because, as you can see, this is a current aerial photograph of the property. And what was vacant has now been built up completely residentially. And I think, when we came to the Planning Commission, and I think when we came to you all, as I said, about a year and a half or two ago, there was a real concern about maintaining the residential zoning predominantly on Sussex Street and whether this would create some sort of precedent that then could be utilized by other property owners. And I recognize and appreciate that concern, but I think there's a fairly simple fail-safe on that, which is in your finding of facts or votes, there's reasons that differentiate this property from those other homes that are now residential. This has been a pre-existing commercial use that was commercial before everything was rezoned to residential on Sussex. It's been commercial and it continues to be commercial, and therefore the zoning is being changed to commercial to match the historic and existing use of that property. Nobody else on that street would have that claim to make in support of their own rezoning. So I think that makes it clearly distinguishable, and I'm not suggesting anybody else has said that or wants to do that, but there's always concern about precedence. I think you have the ability in your decision to make that distinction. The other sort of practical issue with this is that, as I said, the building straddles a zoning line that runs through the middle of it. And that creates its obvious set of problems, but there's also practical ones. The elevator, the fire exits, the electrical panels for the whole building are in there. The sprinkler system goes throughout the whole building. It's run from the back. The HVAC system from the whole building's run from the back. And so should there ever need to be renovations to those systems, you get into questions of whether you're altering the existing non-conforming use of that structure or the systems that are there. Particularly the units that are on Lake and are on Rehoboth Avenue, they're allowed to be commercial, but if all their systems are on the backside, that potentially jams them up should, like Starbucks left. Should something else go in there and they need to change their electrical system or it requires an upgrade on the sprinklers or whatever else, we're dealing with a non-conforming part of the building in the rear. So it eases everything for everybody, whether it's the city and Corey and his staff, whether it's Susan and the Cultured Pearl, because they have a lease for the whole building, and the Quillen family. And as I mentioned, again, Susan has a lease through 2043, so there's not going to be any changes. There was a concern at the Planning Commission, well, this would enable the property. Are you going to redevelop the property into a hotel or whatever else? No, there's a lease for the Cultured Pearl through 2043 at least, and there's no plans by anybody to do this. The other thing, and I almost hesitated to bring this up to the commission, and I'm going to do so today, but it's a real practical concern for both Ms. Wood and her business and the Quillen family and theirs. And this wasn't raised by them Frankly, it was raised by me because I've seen it happen before in other situations. If the property has a split zoning on it and they go to get commercial financing on it, that creates problems with due diligence for the Quillen family if they want to pull equity out of the property. You know, a lot of people think of commercial financing, you get financing to do construction. Well, you also can get financing if you want to pull equity out of the building for some other purpose, or if the Quillens want to use that as collateral for another property or another project somewhere else off-site. And I'm not saying they are, but that can come up. And same thing with Ms. Wood, if she wanted to get a leasehold interest on the property, that same type of question would come up. And it's a lot better for everybody involved, for all the practical and common sense reasons, just to get it taken care of now, be proactive on it rather than be reactive on it because they want to make an alteration or a change to the systems or improve the building or swap out windows or the facades or whatever. We don't have to come running to you or the Board of Adjustment or anybody else for renovations that I think everybody agrees are appropriate on this site. I mentioned this before, and I'll close with it again. We did that MOU in 2006. I was good with it because I had a city solicitor's signature on it, who's not the same city solicitor now. But I can't tell for the life of me that the mayor and commissioners even signed off on it, And so, besides that, an MOU is no way really, 20 years later particularly, to deal with zoning. By doing this corrective rezoning, we just fix a whole host of problems. We don't change anything with the properties you see it today, but we avoid a lot of situations that are sort of underlying the whole property. And Ms. Wood's use and enjoyment of it, the public's use and enjoyment of it as a great restaurant, and the Quillens family's ownership of it as well. So I'll conclude with that. It's hopefully with the change in the future land use map and the change to the zoning map, the limited change of the zoning map, just to pick up the backside of this building. These are all minor corrective actions that I think are reasonable, appropriate under the circumstances. And I'll hang out for any questions you all might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the commissioners for Mr. Robertson?
I have one, if I might. Just my understanding.
Commissioner Gossett, go ahead.
Thank you. If we take this two-step process, would that extinguish the MOU?
Well, if it's rezoned, it would make that MOU moot, yes.
So it will be extinguished so that actions could be taken on the property, either by the leasee or the lessor?
Yeah, when we say actions too, it still has to conform with city code
Correct,
and
correct.
city statute.
Legal actions, let me
Yeah,
put it that way.
right,
Okay.
that's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else up here?
If not, we'll now open the floor for public comment regarding this very first question, amending the comprehensive development plan future land use map by changing the zoning designation of the property identified as Lot 60 Sussex Street from residential to commercial.
Would anybody like to speak for or against or just comment? If so, please come to the center lectern.
Seeing none?
Oh, go ahead. State your name and address or relationship to the city. And pull that microphone up a little bit if you would. There you go.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Denny Quillen, and my brother Chris and I have, since the passing of Mom and Dad, assumed the ownership and management of the family holdings. And we're moving to clean things up and make things manageable and better. We have no intention or interest in changing the usage of the property. I say that because it's from the horse's mouth. So you can take that one to the bank. And we have had a long and very enjoyable working relationship with Susan Wood and the Cultured Pearl team. And we feel honestly that under her leadership, that business has been a real asset to this community and also to neighboring communities. And I just think it's in the best interest that we follow this good advice, and we have no plans to do anything different. That's all I really want to say. Any questions?
No, thank you very much. With that, I'm going to close the public comment and bring it back. Would you like to say something, Susan?
I'm Susan Wood from the Cultured Pearl. My husband Rob Wood is here as well. And we just like to, I just ditto what Denny said. We've had an amazing relationship. We miss Denny very much, but you know, the kids are doing a great job taking over, and this works to their advantage, and for many reasons that Vince already said, so we're in favor of it as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's nobody else, then I'm going to close the public comment portion of the public hearing and bring it back to the table up here. Commissioners.
If there's no further discussion from commissioners, I would ask for a motion to approve amending the Comprehensive Development Plan Future Land Use Map.
Mayor?
Commissioner Gossett.
If I may, I'd like to make a motion to approve an amendment to the Comprehensive Development Plan Future Land Use Map by changing the designation of the property identified as Lot 60, Sussex Street, from residential to commercial.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the amendment to the Comprehensive Development Plan Future Land Use Map.
If I may, commissioners, as you are asked to vote, I would ask that you state a rationale for your decision or simply align yourself with another of your colleagues.
All right. Commissioner Galante.
I vote in support of this motion based on the full record before the commission, including the staff materials, the public testimony, the lack of any opposition, and the recommendation of the Planning Commission. I find that the amendment to the future land use map, changing the parcel known as 60 Sussex from residential to commercial, is consistent with the city's comprehensive development plan and addresses prior zoning inconsistencies. I therefore find a rationale basis for the amendment and will vote in favor of the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Good.
In addition to what Commissioner Galante just stated,
Yes or no, and then you.
yeah, I will be voting in favor simply because since 2006, if not before, with the Quillen's Hardware Store, where I actually shopped a few times, the surrounding properties, many of which are new construction since 2006, they assumed actually that entire structure was commercial. And I know that Mr. Quillen has indicated he has no plans to modify anything, but no, there will eventually come a time when that whole building may need to be razed to the ground and replaced. And I don't have a problem with that because I think there are no adverse economic consequences to surrounding property owners because they assumed there would be a commercial establishment in that sort of triangle space. So there are just a lot of reasons why this seems like a sensible, common sense, good idea to me.
Thank you. So we've got 2 yeses. Commissioner Saunders.
I also vote in favor. I will note that I'm very impressed by the unanimous vote of our Planning Commission, who went into great detail into investigating the options, and therefore I vote yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett.
I also vote yes, based on the comments made by Commissioner Galante and also the relationships over the years that the Quillen family has had with the city, as well as Susan Wood and the family there at Cultured Pearl. Always been a very well-established, well-run organization, and we're glad to have you as part of our community.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Thier.
I vote yes for the reasons stated by Commissioner Galante. Thank you.
Commissioner Stewart.
I vote in favor of this. I was on the Planning Commission and voted in favor then, and I think it's consistent with our CDP. And more importantly, you've got a commercial building stuck on 2 different zones, so this makes perfect sense. So yes.
And the chair votes yes, that by passing this, the newly amended future land use map in the current CDP now comports with the zoning request, and I also mirror Commissioner Galante's rationale. With that, the motion passes 7-0.
And now that we have that motion passed, we'll move to the second step, the subject of amending the Rehoboth Beach zoning map by changing the zoning designation of the property identified as Lot 60 Sussex Street from R2 to C1. Again, if there are no questions from the commissioners, we'll go to the public for comment.
All right, this is hearing no comments from the commissioners. We'll go to the members of the public for public comment. And
I have to say something else.
if something.
If there are no members of the public who wish to comment. Sorry. I would just like to note that all of the documents that are embedded in the agenda are considered to have been included in the record. And I would ask for a motion to amend the Rehoboth Beach zoning map.
If I may make a motion
Commissioner
to approve.
Gossett?
Thank you. If I may make a motion to approve an amendment to the Rehoboth Beach zoning map by changing the zoning designation of the same property mentioned from R2 to C1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve an amendment to the Rehoboth Beach zoning map as noted. Is there any further discussion among the commissioners? If not, remember, we need to give a rationale. I'm going to start with Commissioner Good.
I vote aye for the reasons I've already stated, as well as being very familiar with that corner, that feel that it's a fixture in our community, that little, I call it the mini mall. And so I vote aye to clean up the zoning map. And yes, the MOU, hopefully, I'm not even sure if it's in possession of the city anymore, but someone should write cancel or moot or something, crosshatch it.
Commissioner Saunders?
I vote yes. Sometimes things just make common sense, and this one does, so I'm voting yes.
Commissioner Gossett?
I vote aye, based on the full record, including staff materials, public testimony, and the Planning Commission's recommendation. I find that the rezoning is consistent with a comprehensive plan, addresses prior zoning inconsistencies, and is compatible with surrounding uses. I therefore find a rational basis for the rezoning and will vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Commissioner Thier?
I vote yes for the reasons stated by Commissioner Gossett.
Commissioner Stewart?
I vote yes for the reasons stated by Commissioner Gossett.
Commissioner Galante?
I vote yes for the reasons stated by Commissioner Stewart, or Commissioner Gossett.
And the chair votes yes. I believe the proposed change in the zoning classification accurately reflects the current and longstanding use of the property, and my rationale for voting mirrors that of Commissioner Patrick Gossett. With that, the motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much. May they all be that easy and straightforward. And happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
There you go. Okay.
With that, if you recall, we were going to have a change in sequencing here. The next item of business will be consider recommendation of the audit committee to accept the city's independent audit prepared by the firm Barbicane, Thornton and Company for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025. Come up to the side one here. Yes. And if you'd start off with an introduction and do your thing, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Jeff Kowalczyk. I'm a senior partner with Barbicane, Thornton and Company, the city's independent audit firm. With me today is another of our partners, Joseph Manfrey, who led the audit of the city for the year ended March 31st, 2025. I'm going to turn it over to him to briefly introduce you all to the audit process and deliver our results for the year.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, so we're getting into the results of the March 31st, 2025 audit. So I'm going to try to keep this pretty brief and then just open it up for any questions that you may have about the financials themselves. But we did issue our audit opinion on October 10th, 2025, and we are issuing an unmodified audit opinion over the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate fund remaining fund information for the city of Rehoboth Beach as of March 31st, 2025. And the basis of our audit opinion, we conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States and standards applicable to financial audits contained in governmental auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General. As you may or may not know, the city does spend over $750,000 in awards that originate at the federal level. So you are required to have a compliance audit, which is a single audit. This is in accordance with uniform guidance, and we are issuing an unmodified audit opinion for that as well. This year's focus for the major program was the loan related to the Clean Water Act, the revolving funds. So I think you had a draw of about $3 million, which is considered federal funding. So you are getting an unmodified audit opinion there as well, which means you're in compliance with all the federal requirements. I always like to go over the responsibilities of management as well as the auditors over the financials. So ultimately, management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal controls, and making sure the financials are free from material misstatement, whether that is due to fraud or error. Us as auditors, we perform our procedures to come up with reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement, whether that is due to fraud or error. I say reasonable assurance as this is the highest level of assurance that we can give in our profession. We can't give absolute assurance as we are not looking over every single transaction that the city enters into in a given year. I always like to go over these bullet points because I think it really hits at home, what we're doing in our audit procedures. So we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit process. We identify and assess the risks of material misstatement over the financial statements, whether that's due to fraud or error. And this is how we design and perform audit procedures in response to those risks. This includes, confirmation testing and transactional testing on a test basis. We obtain an understanding of the internal controls relevant to the audit. And this really just includes, how cash flows in and out of the city, whether that's cash receipts, payroll, or disbursements. We make sure that it's operating effectively, but also designed and appropriate for the size of the city. And on a cyclical basis, we always go over one single internal control cycle a little bit more in depth. This year it was payroll. So we selected a larger sample of payroll, and we deemed everything to be operating effectively. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies and make sure that they're reasonable for any accounting estimates made by management. And then ultimately, we make sure that the city has the ability to continue operations for the foreseeable future. You will see an emphasis of matter paragraph this year. So this was related to GASB 101, which changed compensated absences standards. Not going to go really too into the weeds here, but essentially, previously you had your PTO and your vacation balances. Now you kind of have to have like a look out to see how much an employee may use over their given time with the city. So it's really making it more of an estimate rather than just what's in the HR balance. This did have to look back to prior years to see if we did have to restate beginning balances. However, management and our team concluded that adjustment was deemed immaterial, so there was no restatement of prior year balances. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over the financials in total, but it was a good year for the city. You had an increase of net position at the entity-wide level of about $9.1 million. And with GASB 101, there was no changes to any footnote disclosures. So anything that you would have seen in prior year reports is pretty much the same. So I would just open it up to any comments at this time or questions.
Any questions by the commissioners? Commissioner Saunders?
We have our own audit committee. Have they reviewed all of the documents?
Yes, sorry, I should have probably mentioned that before. We did come in, was it earlier this month or was it last month? I think it was right before Thanksgiving, actually. It was this month? Okay, yeah, so early, yeah.
30 days.
Yeah, it was in the past 30 days. We did meet with the audit committee, fielded their questions, and they did accept the results of the audit.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other commissioners? Questions? We need to culminate in a vote to accept the audit report. However, I want to go to the public. Is there anybody that wants to say anything? Not at all. Thank you very much. Again, the next step would be to receive a motion to accept the audit report as presented.
So moved.
Oh,
I would make,
Commissioner
I would make a
Stewart?
motion.
Commissioner Stewart?
Do you want me to second his motion? I second his motion to accept the audit.
We have a motion and a second to accept the audit report as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, and the motion's carried. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
You can leave if you like. Let's see. Next on the agenda, we're going to move back into sequence. Old Business 15A, discuss and consider changes to the Bandstand Summer Concert Series, including but not limited to the number of concerts and days of the week, as well as ways to minimize impacts of the business community and actions to be taken to ensure the safety of patrons.
So I will actually be going over those, Mayor. So staff has come up with several recommendations. Evan's going to control the slides for me. But first, we wanted to focus on better enforcement of pedestrians on sidewalks blocking businesses, because it's not fair to the businesses to have folks crowding their doorways, preventing people from walking on the sidewalks. So that code change, permanently prohibiting the parking after 6 p.m. on concert days, would really be critical in making that a success, because it would take the vehicles that end up sitting there throughout the concert out of the equation, where people could then put their chairs and congregate in the parking spots rather than on the sidewalk. So we believe that would be another thing, along with communications, to keep people out of those doorways and off those sidewalks, because right now they're not being told to do that, so they don't even know that that's something that's hurting the businesses. Another thing, it would allow people to further fill in the bandstand horseshoe, but ultimately better communication and promotion of the temporary changes to the travel lanes during the concert series. A lot of the DoorDash drivers, the Uber Eats drivers, don't realize that there's a space for them. People don't realize that there is a drop-off there, so better communicating that to folks, getting that out on our social media so that the DoorDash drivers do see that, so then they will be more inclined to accept the orders that are being put out by the businesses. Because part of the chamber meeting that we attended, we were hearing that a lot of those drivers were declining to pick up orders from the bandstand area because they didn't realize that those spaces are available to them. And we'd like to continue to solicit feedback on the concert series from other stakeholders, like our residents and visitors and businesses. The survey that we did receive, we'd really like to see more input and data. And moving to the next slide, Evan, we'd also like to assist with additional promotions of those downtown businesses in particular. And if there is an interest or will of the Board of Commissioners to provide some type of gift voucher program that had been floated in one of those meetings, we definitely would be willing to provide funding for that, but believe partnering with the Chamber or Main Street to essentially administer a program like that would be most beneficial. We don't necessarily have the expertise or manpower to operate some type of program like that, but we certainly could provide funding. Another thing, so through our communications department, we'd really like to do a part of my YouTube series to do a video on proper behavior at the concert series. We did that this last season with how to navigate our parking infrastructure, and that's kind of a nice how-to for people, especially if they're a visitor coming in. They are looking for things like that to learn more about our community. So we could also create short videos to put on social media to also better highlight, hey, we have all these wonderful businesses down here. Here's some of the things that you can do. Here's some fish and chips. Here's ice cream. Here's this. But also really promoting keeping off the sidewalks, keeping out of those doorways. And our street department, I believe the business owner with the T-shirt shop down there had brought up that people are turning the benches around, which is another thing that we definitely can address by placing the swing back benches there. So people aren't moving benches, but it'd just simply be changing the back of the bench if someone leaves it the wrong way and it's not a, hampering to that business. So these are the suggestions that staff has at this time for the concert series, not necessarily changing the frequency or dates at this time, but we also have Corey Grohl here in the audience to field any questions you may have about the actual program itself, but he gave a fairly comprehensive presentation at the last meeting, so we are here for any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, would the
We will be,
commissioners be able to comment
we
first?
will be going to the public, but we're going to start with the commissioners. Commissioner Stewart?
I have a couple questions and a comment. I guess my foundational question is, the studies that we do may contemplate changes in the days of, we'll let the surveys take us where they will. We're open to that. Is that correct? In terms of changing days or whatever? Because my concern is that this thing was put in place and now has grown to this incredibly successful thing on days that are already popular. It's saturated. And so we're not necessarily pulling more people in isn't resulting in good things. So I'm heartened by that. The second thing is, if you're going to, for instance, prohibit loitering in doorstops or keep the traffic moving during the bandstand, does there need to be some code change so that officers can threaten a ticket for it? So adding on that, will there be any signage that says during concerts, you cannot sit here and, watch the concert, like get in a circle or something like that? I don't know what's practical, but I really appreciate the changes you suggested, because I think with the resources we have now, this is a good first step.
Thank you, Susan. Do you want to respond or just take note? I'll take note. Take a note. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Galante and then Commissioner Good.
When this topic was discussed before, we heard commentary about use of the bandstand outside of the concert series, and I don't see any recommendations on that. That was something that I think was important. I heard it pretty significantly in the Chamber of Commerce listening session around the types of events that can be used at the bandstand and in the horseshoe, and the criteria that is used to accept or deny those types of events. I don't see any recommendations here. Is that something that's going to be forthcoming?
So let me back up a little bit. I felt like I had mentioned that at the prior meeting we had, but ultimately, the special event permits that we receive, it is a team of city staff that review and ultimately approve what events are going down there. So that includes our communications manager, the police chief, the police captain, myself, Evan, and moving forward, exactly, we are going to be much more stringent on what constitutes a bandstand closure.
That's where I was going with it. I think we need to revisit the criteria and not approving every single application that comes through. There are other places in the city where those events could take place, City Hall, Grove Park, et cetera. I don't think the bandstand and the horseshoe has to be the ultimate destination for everything.
Yes, and I think one of the business owners said it best, if you have 25 people there for an event, it doesn't need to be closed.
Yeah, great.
And so we definitely heard the businesses and want to definitely reflect that in our future, bookings of that area.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioner Good?
Yes, so if any of you watched the meeting, I believe it was November 21st, well, that Friday in November, I think all of you picked up on the fact that I'm extremely frustrated that we are once again using Band-Aids instead of making the hard decisions. And I have pointed out, and I have sent links to my colleagues of other towns. I happen to have been in San Mateo, California. They only offer free concerts in the summer on Thursdays because they have some common sense. They don't need to draw so many people in on Fridays and Saturdays in particular. Now, I'm not suggesting we axe all 3 nights. I just think instead of this attitude, I heard Commissioners Stewart and Thier say they needed more data. Well, I have a good proxy for data because the police department, well, the dispatch center has kindly provided data on calls and how much work they have to do. It's broken down by night of the week. And I just did the proportions. As an example, Friday and Saturday nights represent over 40% of the calls they get, whether it's heart attacks or whatever it is, fights. And if you include Sunday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's 52%, meaning Monday through Thursday, which are 4 nights, only represent 48%. We all know that weekends drive something like 70 to 80% of the business in this resort town and in every other resort town. So to me, I think this approach, when I heard they wanted more study, more data, I just wanted to cry when all of us who've experienced weekends in Rehoboth versus weekdays should know how much traffic we're getting. My suggestion, and I hope we will maybe come to a consensus, is to listen to the business owners. We all of us except one commissioner, I believe, was present when the business owners participated in a forum on November 24th. And they had such creative ideas. The problem is this is drawing in more people when we don't particularly need to draw in more people. The town is full. But if you were to switch the Saturday night concert to Wednesday, you would spread out not only police presence and everything else, it would ease the burden on this town. I'm sorry to get emotional about it, but my tenure as commissioner has been beyond frustrating. I don't feel there's data-backed decision-making on this board. No one believes in analyzing the problem. No one believes in looking at towns like Lewis and Bethany, which have chosen to avoid having all their concerts on the weekends. So we seem to have this attitude that Rehoboth is so special that we should be different from everybody else and somehow better. Well, I think we do worse. I think we show ourselves to be arrogant and incompetent by the way this town is run, and the bandstand concert topic is just a shining example of how we don't handle things competently and efficiently. So I hope other people are interested in a compromise. A compromise is how lots of things should be done. And the police wouldn't have to be giving up their the police officers have families too. This is a huge burden on them all 3 nights of the weekends for those peak 13 weekends or 39 nights of the summer. There are so many incidental benefits to shifting the way every other town in this country, including San Mateo, California, has chosen to do.
Thank you, Suzanne. Anybody else up here? Commissioner
Yeah, Mayor,
Thayer?
if I could. So I may have other comments, but I just want to make one comment, based on the comments that Commissioner Good just made. I've mentioned Placer AI before, and I'm just going to give one statistic, which is that Placer AI tells us that 79% of the people that attend the concerts, okay, so 4 out of every 5, come from in town. They walk from our hotels, they walk from our rental properties, they walk from our residences. So the idea that we're drawing them in by the thousands with the concerts is simply not true. So please do not accuse me of talking about wanting to get more data and wanting to use more data. Placer AI, this is just one example, the Bandstand concerts, and Taylor and I have talked about, he mentioned other special events. We're going to be using this Placer AI data to make informed decisions on what events make sense for this city. And right now, what's pretty clear is that at best, I don't want to say at best, the data that we're getting from Placer AI is consistent with the survey data, which is it's inconclusive. Like the survey, Placer AI says the same thing. The majority of the businesses benefit from the concerts. Does that mean every every business benefits? No. Does that mean it's a detriment to them? I didn't say that, okay? But what I don't want to do is make a decision on which businesses, you're basically asking me to make a decision on which businesses should be successful and which are not. That's what you're doing, and I'm not going to do that.
Did you have additional comments?
I may later.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else up here before we go to the public? Let's go to the members of the public. If you're going to speak, come up to the center podium, give your name and address or relationship to the city. Anybody?
My name is Dan Slagle, and I am the Executive Director of Rehoboth Beach Main Street. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and City Manager. I want to thank you for the recommendations that the city has worked on. You know, I appreciate your effort, and I'm sure our downtown appreciates your effort. It means a lot. Main Street is always listening to your concerns, the businesses, the city, and we will continue to follow this conversation. We are concerned about the issues affecting our member businesses and the downtown visitors. Main Street is always looking at the problems that are brought up. Rehoboth Beach Main Street takes this issue very seriously, and we represent all businesses in downtown Rehoboth. We did a great, very short survey of those businesses, and Commissioner Good, we are trying to gather data, and this is the data that will try to help. We're trying to do our part and be a voice too for this downtown. Since we didn't get a great response, we walked around for this past week with 60 surveys that were delivered, hand-delivered, to make sure we're going to get some facts. The summary is, I'm respecting the business by putting this out. A few of the businesses did not wanted confidentiality. So what I'm getting ready to explain is just what some of the members said. We put out the survey saying, will this impact your business having the bandstand concerts, good or bad, positive, negativity? Out of 41 surveys that I got back, 23 members positively say this affects their business. So they said it's a positive impact. 15 businesses negatively affected their business with very suggestions for improvement, which I really respected. They gave me suggestions what to do. We appreciate that. 3 members were neutral and had no comments. So I just wanted to come up and speak on behalf of Rehoboth Beach Main Street, our board, and for myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Anybody else? Susan, are you coming up? Yep.
Hi, I'm Susan Wood, and put on my different hat here. I'm actually here. I'm also chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, and I am here representing the chamber along with our new pending incoming CEO. So this is one of the first meetings. Carol hasn't attended it. I'm sure you guys are going to greatly miss her as well. So we had a discussion at our last meeting with the chamber, and the chamber is really, really interested in working with the city on anything we can do to help the businesses. And we're really grateful that you had that meeting that we had a few weeks ago, and that you're putting a lot of thought into, trying to preserve the concerts and keep everybody happy at the same time. It is very challenging, very difficult decision, and I think there were a lot of really good ideas brought up in that meeting, and you have already started acting on them, which is really fast and really appreciated. I also had gone and talked to Henry Matloss, the Public Works Director, who got us a plan of the downtown area and actually has some more plans. He had that to me in less than 15 minutes, I think, which was amazing. So I think Kate's going to say a few words, but I think what we wanted to let you know is that we do have some good ideas with the chamber, and we want to continue meeting with people. It's obviously very short notice, and we're all really busy this time of year and haven't had time to put things in place. But rather than, completely abandon everything that you've worked so hard for, the concerts, which are great, and bringing people to town and helping the businesses, if we can maybe not do a knee-jerk thing and kind of think it through in a way that's going to be beneficial to everybody. I know one thing we had discussed, and I brought it up, not as the chamber, but as a business owner at the hearing that we had that day, is the possibility, and I know it's a lot to take in, but the possibility of working toward possibly turning the direction of the bandstand toward the boardwalk. I know it sounds like a lot, but it could be as simple as maybe turning the bands just for a few concerts to see how it works. There's a lot of space on the other side, the boardwalk side, which would actually have people facing the businesses instead of blocking the businesses. Again, I asked for the plan, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to draw. I do have something that it's just chicken scratch that you guys can look at if you want, but be very happy to spend a little time. And I realize it's not going to happen this year, might not happen anytime soon, but before we did anything really permanent or made any big purchases, I just think the chamber thinks it might be a really good idea just to look into that. So thank you very much for your time and all
Thank
your
you,
efforts.
Susan. Kate, did you want to just remind you of the 3-minute timer? Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Kate Van Voorst. I'm representing the Rehoboth Dewey Chamber of Commerce. As Susan said, I'm going to be taking over for Carol come January 1st, so bear with me. First, the Chamber would like to thank the City of Rehoboth Beach staff, mayor, and council members for their continued consideration of the business community's thoughts and opinions on this matter. We appreciate their openness to hearing from the downtown businesses. In cooperation and at the city's request, the Chamber conducted a survey of downtown businesses for feedback on the impact to their business from the Bandstand Summer Concert Series. There were 26 surveys collected, 16 of those from businesses located around the bandstand. Following that survey, the Chamber hosted a meeting of its Downtown Advisory Task Force, during which there was lengthy, constructive discussion of solutions that would have minimal impact on the concert series, but would aid businesses in lessening the negative impact the concert series has on customer flow. City officials were present for that meeting to listen to the businesses' thoughts and consider some ideas for improvement. The Chamber and business community always strive for a safe, clean, friendly Rehoboth Beach with an emphasis on safe. The Chamber would encourage the city to utilize the businesses' feedback to implement policy that would accomplish those goals. We hope that any changes made to the scheduling of the summer concert series take into account the negative impact some nights have on businesses, as well as when the concerts might have the most positive impact for businesses and the city of Rehoboth Beach from a financial and parking perspective. We would advise the city of Rehoboth Beach to keep any changes minimal and communicate those changes clearly and consistently, as too many changes at one time can make it difficult to measure their impact. And again, we just want to thank the City of Rehoboth Beach for keeping the lines of communication open, and we look forward to continuing constructive discussions on maintaining Rehoboth Beach's reputation as the nation's summer capital with a thriving business community.
Thank you, Kate. Anybody else? Allison? Excuse me.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Alison. I have Go Fish Restaurant down on the ocean block of the Avenue. So I've spoken many times about this, and quite often I've had to speak for everyone else, because I can tell you right now, the majority of the business owners in the bandstand are not here. They're away, they're on vacation, including this week when Dan went around. I mean, in 2 days this week to get a survey, we're basically shut up down there. So to me, this whole thing is about the economic impact on the businesses, and we're the ones at the scene of the crime. So we're talking about us. I don't understand why we have to talk to realtors and people that come on vacation. They're not impacted by this like we are. I mean, 2 concerts a week, I think we're not trying to take it away. We're asking for you guys to give us something. I mean, we want commercial businesses down there. When the new hotel comes in, we want commercial on that level. But they're going to have a hard time paying their square footage rent if they're if they're strangled off three nights a week all summer long. It's just it's not fair. So I just want to reiterate as well from what Katie said. The last meeting, Stan, you mentioned that there was 13 businesses responded, and I got up and I said, that's not right, because I personally handed in more than that. There were 26 businesses, of which 16 are around the bandstand. So I felt that their survey was trivialized at the last meeting, and so I felt like we're kicking the can down the road here. If we don't make some kind of action this year that we can analyze for next year, how are we going to know? No, we just dilute this over the next 365 days of the year. So it just becomes nothing. But it's everything to us. If you guys lived on a cul-de-sac and you couldn't get to your houses 3 days a week, all summer long, you couldn't get your mail, you couldn't get this, you couldn't get that, you couldn't pay your bills, how does that feel? That's what it's like for us down there. Anyway, and the other thing is, I do appreciate some effort, because I'm going to do a big campaign personally myself for Uber this year. And on my chamber menus that I pay for, I'm going to send out 11,000 QR codes with a 10% discount to pick up. So I need to make sure that my people can get to me and be able to pick up, because that's going to be a big investment on my time. So that's one way I'm going to try and pivot around this. And then also the off-season events as well, they definitely need to be managed more. I mean, there needs to be more communication. We can't have signs up there for a week for something that happened 5 days ago, or cones that are there hours after an event choking us off.
Thank you, Allison.
Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to make a correction there, a reference to me. We did have the data from the last chart, and my comment was that I believe 13 businesses responded using their names, and 15 responded without their name. Now, I'm not going to argue, but that's my recollection. Anybody else like to speak? Tom Ibach?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, City
Name
Manager. I'm Tom Ibach. I own Dolly's was on the corner, but just talk a little bit about this Summer Concert Series. It has been a negative impact on my business. Mondays through Thursdays are generally the slowest days of the week for us. Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays generate anywhere between 60 and 80% of our businesses during a week in the summer. Example, July and August. When we get hit with a concert on those particular nights, we lose roughly half of our business on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday. Half of the business. Okay, that's from the concert. And that hits us pretty good. All right, there's very little folks from my area around, but we're in that horseshoe. Other people around further down the street may not be as impacted as much, because maybe they're restaurants and people are in town or whatever. But when the people come into town to sit for that concert, they're there for a free concert. That doesn't mean when those 1,500 or 1,800 people come in that they're going to spend money. They come in for the free concert, and not necessarily to patronize the businesses in the area. So I'm asking for a little bit of concern on your part to maybe change the dates a little bit. Not all 3 days on a weekend, maybe one on a weekend, one midweek or something like that, to try to help out a little bit. But it's extremely impactful for the business. We've been there for a few years and want to make it a few more years. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else? We're going to limit it to one speaker per time. Go ahead. Your
Brand
name?
Willis, I own Sierra Moon Surf and Skates on the avenue of the old Carlton's building. I agree with your ideas. Just change the dates. The weekend's fine. Have 1, 2 weekday concerts, do it on a Tuesday, do it on a Wednesday when people aren't here. You get a different variety of customers that come in and view the free concerts, but every single weekend, all through the summer, those are our busiest days of the year. It 1,000% impacts every single business, retail, takeout, food. So I think it's pretty simple. I think it's pretty easy to compromise and just, hey, let's have one weekday concert, let's have 1 or 2 weekend concerts, split it up, and then I think everyone would be happy.
Thank you. Anybody else? Last call. David?
Good afternoon, commissioners and the public. Again, I thank you for your service to this community. It's a lot of effort that you guys go through. Just a couple quick comments.
Your name?
Oh, sorry. Dave Diefendorfer, city resident.
Thank you.
Just a couple quick comments. I agree, but it's nice to get as much data as you can, make the best solution, make the best to find a solution to the problem. So I don't know whether we're going to get all the data that we can come up with, although I agree it's best if you can. Maybe you just try possibly a couple for this summer, maybe switch a couple weeks and do just the Saturday or the Sunday, and then do a Wednesday, and see what you actually get as you make that change. It's a possibility you might see a difference, and that might help you come to a reasonable solution. The other thing is maybe you can, definitely the police can try to keep people off the sidewalk, and there's lots of things that might make this go better. And the other idea I had, and I don't know whether this would possibly work, we've talked about everybody's in the road, we've talked about people are on the sidewalks. Could you take away the last row of benches back by the memorials, and could you try renting a grandstand for 1 or 2 weeks to see if that helps, gets people off the sidewalk? Maybe they'll be elevated, maybe they get a better look of the bands. I don't know if that's going to work. No one really knows until you try something. Of course, you got liability issues, people falling down the thing and the whole thing. But it's just, maybe we can keep thinking about things and come up with better solutions. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else? If not, we're going to bring it back up here. The city manager, of course, would like some direction on where to go. So obviously, his interest would be to hear a motion to instruct himself and staff to move forward with the recommendations provided. That's one option. Again, bring it back to the commissioners. Commissioner Thier?
Sure. I would like to, and again, I don't know that we need to make a motion here, right? Because all of this falls within the day-to-day operational responsibilities of the city manager, right? So do we really need to make a motion, or do we just need to make a motion to end discussion?
Well, I would be helpful, I think, to Taylor that you all are in support of the actions
Okay.
that he's taking. So I think from that perspective, it would be helpful to have a motion just to simply allow him to continue with these recommendations and others as has been discussed.
And I'd also like to point out, if you did want to do something like financially for a coupon program, something like that, we would address that in the upcoming budget process. You don't necessarily have to single that piece out or in at this time, but that would be something we could address during that.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yeah. So, so I'll go ahead and I'll make.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead. Yeah.
there are other comments.
He has the floor, Suzanne.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and I'll make a motion to accept the recommendations of the city manager, including evaluating the first bullet point up there, which is assisting with additional promotions of downtown businesses as the liaison of Main Street. I know that's something they've been looking at as well as increasing, trying to use Placer AI to continue to evaluate the events. I don't want to make a knee-jerk reaction. I've heard that from a couple of people that got up and spoke. So a few things. One, as I said with the Placer AI, I think it confirms many of the surveys, I don't want to say many of the surveys, but all of the surveys, I think there's now at least 2 or 3 surveys out there that show that the majority of the businesses benefit from the concerts. And I do appreciate the businesses that say they don't benefit from the concerts. But I don't want to make any knee-jerk reactions. I would like to see Taylor move forward with his recommendations, including the one on the promotions of downtown businesses. I would add one thing to this, which is it's pretty clear from the Placer AI data that the Sundays are slower than the other nights. So maybe we should consider swapping a Sunday for a day during the week as a test and see how those work out.
There's a motion.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the recommendations presented by the city manager with the addition of requesting a trial date, trial change in dates as noted. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Saunders?
I just wanted to point out that at the meeting with the chamber, there was an idea that was thrown out that I thought was a good one, that someone made the very valid point that if you have 1,500 people coming down, you ought to be able to sell them something. And I'm wondering if maybe the businesses need to rethink their business and see how they can reach out to those 1,500 people and sell them something. And maybe we have to bend a little. Maybe we have to bend the rules to allow you to go over to those benches, whether it be ice cream or Coke or whatever it is that you're selling, sort of like ball game style. But I thought that was a very valid point, and I would ask the city manager to keep that in mind when we're doing these recommendations.
Let me just clarify. You indicated that at that meeting that there was an idea thrown out. I think you mean an idea tossed into the ring.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah, that is
Okay.
right. I don't mean thrown out of the ideas. I mean, it was a good idea.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make
Commissioner
one.
Galante?
So I like the motion put on the floor, but I also am very sensitive to the businesses and the points that they are making. I really like what Dave Diffenderfer said about exploring moving some of the dates. Right now, we have 13 consecutive weeks where we're doing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I think we could learn a lot by shifting a certain number of those dates to help inform our decisions in future years. So closing ourselves off to that understanding and that learning process, I think, is foolish, and I think we really need to change some of these. I would be very open to exploring Fridays or Sundays or whatever the right mix is, and I look to Corey on how we could do that, but I don't think we should go forward with exactly what we did last year. We're hearing a lot of really strong feedback. It's grounded in real data, both from the chamber and from Main Street, that businesses are being negatively impacted. And I think it's foolish of us just to stick our head in the sand and, do nothing for another year. Promotions are not enough.
Well, my understanding is that Craig's motion included a trial date. So he's not.
If I may, forgive me, Mayor and Commissioners, but perhaps we could vote on the basic underlying motion, and then if Commissioner Galante would like to propose his own motion about perhaps doing a trial period, changing days, allowing the.
Can I make an amendment to the motion?
And Mr. Mayor, I need to speak
wait a
before
minute.
any motion is
Well, wait
considered,
a minute.
please.
Because Craig, do you want Craig to remove part of his motion?
No,
that
I think
says
that-
do a trial?
No, I think what he is saying is that it should be reviewed, if I'm correct. There should be an opportunity to look at perhaps whether or not dates could be swapped.
With all due respect, I think that's too loose. I think we need to be really more clear and definitive and say 6 days. We're going to shift 6 days.
Well, I think she has a good point. Maybe we should vote on accepting the recommendations first, get that over with, and then somebody can make a second motion with more specificity in it.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Okay, a couple of things. I feel this is the tail wagging the dog. I appreciate lots of the sentiments expressed by Mr. Galante, by Commissioner Galante. So we are moving in the direction of finally listening, in particular to the businesses who have the highest square foot rent of the entire city. This is the Ocean Block on Rehoboth Avenue. So they are the ones the most adversely affected by what appears to have been a poorly chosen location for the bandstand back in 2006, which we can't, those are the constraints we can't do much about. But I'm worried
Suzanne,
we're letting the staff make these recommendations and decisions, whereas I feel we're ready right now to say, we'll have the concerts this summer, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, with a view toward the following summer, maybe having them just on Wednesdays and Sundays. One of my problems, one of the suggestions you have here is this Tedder Talks, as though you think a significant portion of the nearby people are going to watch those things. I saw those talks. This is a professional photographer Mr. Tedder wanted to hire. It's like Mao Zedong speaking to the minions. And we don't have a significant number of people who are going to listen to that and on that basis not obstruct the sidewalk. In what world? The other problem I have in general with what we're doing is we're allowing this town to continue to say, well, we can't make any definitive decisions, we'll look at more data, and we'll wait till the summer of 2027. To me, that's not good enough. We need to effect these changes 2026. In answer to Commissioner Thier, while it may be the case that that a majority of those who attend the concerts come from nearby rental properties, they could be full-time residents like myself, hotel guests, the problem is they're blocking the area for those who, they get intimidated, they see the massive crowd there, and they might listen to the music for 10 minutes, but they're not going to push forward and go and buy a t-shirt or go buy some fudge or taffy at IBAX. So I feel like we should be able to take more action and not leave it to city staff does work hard. They often have an agenda set for them by the mayor and not necessarily by a consensus of all of us. So we have a problem in making this motion. We're delegating too much of the decision-making to Mr. Tedder, and I'm not on board with that because I've seen a lot of bad decisions he's made since arriving May 15th, 2024.
Thank you, Suzanne. Again, we have a motion on the floor that we need to act on before we do any more.
I just wanted to make a comment. I wanted to make a comment that I think it's very unprofessional for you to denigrate Mr. Tedder. He's doing a good job. You're haranguing him constantly, 24/7, with voicemails and emails. Has to stop. I think you have some good ideas, but you kind of talk me out of supporting them because you're so obnoxious. So, Mayor, I don't know, do we have a second on his motion?
You seconded it. And can you repeat the motion? The motion, if I recall, is to support the recommendations of the city member as in here, but also to, if you will, experiment with some trial dates on moving some dates around so that we can get an idea of the validity of moving them around. Do you want to?
And if I can clarify, the motion that I heard, the piece related to, excuse me, the trial change was we will do a trial change. We will change a date where we can analyze the data and move forward. That's what I heard.
Yeah, and that's what I had said, and I'm going to go back to Kate's comment. You made several comments, but I'm going to just one here, which is keep any changes minimal, otherwise we can't monitor the impact. So as I had said, I'm on board with changing dates, but I also believe that no knee-jerk reactions. I don't think that was your comment. That was somebody else's comments. No knee-jerk reactions, and let's keep the changes minimal so we can track them. Track the impacts. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Patrick, did you want to say something?
If I may, I'm in agreement with making options and taking the suggestions and implementing them. But as I stated before, included in this, there has to be some type of proposed metrics to show a success in this or failure. Unless we change a particular night, eliminate a Saturday night or move it to a Wednesday, what have you, there's got to be some metric that is designed, that is agreed upon before we go into this, that it is a success or a failure as to what the change has implemented. You know, there's other aspects of only changing a one night or 2 nights, whatever the decision may be, but there's weather, there's the economy, there's construction that's going to be taking place on the boardwalk, there's competition, there are new trends in food, all of these things that will fit into oh, it was a success or it wasn't. But unless we have some metric that everyone agrees on, Mike had mentioned before, we're working together on this, that both sides of us come together and understand what success really is. And until we have that metric in place, I'm really not willing to support any changes, because we need to know what success looks like. Defined by both sides, if you will, or everybody together.
Well,
Mr. Mayor?
I'm willing to support it with the understanding that we would seek those metrics.
Mr. Mayor, would someone please clarify, is Mr. Tedder supposed to shift, of the 13 weekends, shift all Saturday nights to, say, Wednesday? Or like, I feel we're not being specific enough, because normally the 7 of us should decide on this trial, it shouldn't be other, it should be no one but us. And I hear what Commissioner Gossett is saying. I don't think it's rocket science. We're going to see whether we have fewer people with strollers and wheelchairs who are able to navigate the sidewalks, because on a Wednesday, we all know, I mean, unless you've been living under a rock, this town is less crowded on a Wednesday in July. Well, let's take away the July 4th period, which is shifting and there are different parameters, but it's far less crowded on a Wednesday evening than it is on a Saturday night. So there will be more traffic regardless. I think there'll be just as much traffic in town on Saturday nights without the concert. That's my frank assessment. I've looked at what Bethany and Lewis have experienced, and they bring in people who want, there's plenty of activities and stimulation on a Saturday night in Rehoboth Beach. I love walking the boardwalk on
Mayor,
a
if I
Saturday
could,
night.
so get us back on track.
You're getting redundant. I'm going to call the question.
Okay, if I could.
And again, the motion, paraphrased, is to adopt the recommendations provided by the city manager, as well as to do some trial exchanges of dates without specifying the number. And that's in front of us. I'm going to do a roll call vote, and as I rotate where I start, Commissioner Saunders,
I vote yes.
Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Thayer,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Galante,
Yes.
Commissioner Good,
I vote no, because there are 13 peak weekends. For that reason alone, but there are several reasons, this is
a no
insufficient,
will
so I vote no.
suffice. And the chair votes yes, and the motion's carried. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here and speaking up. With that, Patrick, do you want to introduce the next one? You have it in front of you.
Sure.
Update on voting.
Yeah. Next on the agenda under new business is B, which is an update on the zoning code changes, including discussions on the city's partnership with Dover Cole & Partners. I believe Mr. Schenko is going to make a presentation with regards to that.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank
If you
you.
will just bear with me, I've got the PowerPoint on my USB, so I'm just going to get that in here. I have the actual PowerPoint. So I hope this works and you guys can see the slides and not necessarily my speaker notes. Before I fully go into this presentation, let me see here. That's the one. I printed off my speaker notes because it doesn't let me see it on here. So I do apologize. I will be looking down at this. I do have these slides here. Don't have as much information as I will have in my speaker notes, but I will be happily, provide them for you afterwards if you'd like to have them for your records. Before I go into this, just as a little background, this presentation comes as a result of a 2.5-day tour that Mr. Joe Cole, on behalf of Dover Cole and Partners, had to the city of Rehoboth Beach last month.
Can you stop a second? Dottie and Susan, we can hear you very clearly up here. Thank you. Corey, I'm sorry.
Sure. So this presentation is a result of Joe Cole's tour, and this is part of phase one of. Back when I came here in June, I gave a Gantt chart, and it essentially involved very, very little consultation assistance as far as planning goes. But with that, it's estimated a good 6 to 8 years to really get through a full code examination, primarily in-house, which is a long period of time, and also without the expertise from certain planning, other city planners. And so based off of that, we had to kind of restructure how we looked at the code initiatives. And although I will be talking about Dover Cole's observations today, it's a multi-pronged approach. 2026 is going to be a big year for us, one with the Planning Commission, and I'll go into that here with the 5-year comprehensive code update. We also are working on low-hanging fruit in-house. We also are working on moving towards a parcel-based mapping with GIS and our zoning map, and then also the larger part of what Dover Cole is going to be involved in. So just to tee that off, I'll go into the presentation now, and I'll be happy to answer questions afterwards. This presentation is intended to frame how the city is approaching land development regulations, design standards, and long-term planning in a coordinated way. It's not a proposal for immediate code changes, nor does it represent predetermined outcomes. Instead, it outlines a disciplined process, one that brings professional planning expertise together with community input to guide future decisions. Dover Cole and Partners were selected because of their experience working in established, character-rich communities like Rehoboth Beach, where physical form, policy alignment, and implementation matter as much as vision. They are assisting the city not by redefining our goals, but by helping us translate the CDP's adopted vision into clearer, more effective regulatory tools and implementation strategies. Dover Cole and Partners' first observations strongly echo the CDP's description of Rehoboth Beach as a multi-function city, both a stable residential community and an active seaside resort. Wide civic spaces and small streets, forested neighborhoods and commercial corridors, historic buildings, and newer construction all coexist here. Dover Cole and Partners' observation is that these differences require context-sensitive approaches, not blanket rules. That insight is shaping how we think about future code modernization, recognizing that different places within the city may need different tools while still protecting overall character. These initial observations reinforce the comp plan's emphasis on compatibility with existing neighborhoods and recognition that different parts of the city function differently and should not be regulated uniformly. Dover Cole uses this slide to remind us that change is not something new to Rehoboth Beach. It's been happening for over a century. The key distinction is whether change is intentional or reactive. Dover Cole and Partners' role is to help the city learn from historic patterns, understand current pressures, and proactively shape what the next chapter could look like, rather than letting incremental decisions determine outcomes by default. The comprehensive development plan recognizes that Rehoboth Beach is largely built out and that future change will occur primarily through redevelopment. It also makes clear that zoning and land use decisions should implement the plan's adopted vision and community values rather than occur incrementally or in isolation. This slide represents why this moment is different from previous discussions. Issues such as building scale, parking pressure, and housing availability have been acknowledged for years, but often addressed in isolation or deferred because of their complexity. What is new is the alignment of elected leadership, staff capacity, implementation capacity, community readiness, and professional planning support. 2026 is the year the city deliberately moves from awareness into action, using a structured, thoughtful process rather than ad hoc responses. This reflects the CDP's call for coordinated implementation of land use policy rather than incremental amendments disconnected from the broader vision. Why now? Internally, the city is already addressing low-hanging fruit, cleaning up internal inconsistencies and ambiguities within the code. Chapters such as subdivision of land and site plan review and housing standards are good examples of areas where clarity and alignment are already working on to be improved. That work is necessary, but it's not the full scope of this initiative. Looking ahead, the city's planned move to parcel-based mapping in 2026, consistent with the 2022 CDP, will allow us to correct property boundaries, addressing discrepancies and zoning map inaccuracies that affect our daily operations. At the same time, aligning this work with the Planning Commission's 2027 Comprehensive Plan Update ensures that policy, mapping, and regulations evolve together rather than in disconnected phases. This timing also creates an opportunity to explore broader structural approaches identified by Dover Cole and Partners, including the potential use of hybrid form-based code methods and an architectural design guide for commercial buildings. Together, these tools could allow character, scale, building form, and streetscape relationships to be addressed more directly and consistently, providing a clearer expectations for development and a stronger public realm focus that can be achieved rather than through piecemeal dimensional controls alone, which is your standard conventional zoning. Considering these concepts now alongside mapping updates in the comp plan cycle allows the city to be proactive and coordinated rather than revisiting these questions incrementally over many years. What we heard, one of the clearest messages Dover Cole and Partners heard was concern about losing what makes Rehoboth Beach unique. Importantly, this concern is not opposition to investment or reinvestment. Dover Cole and Partners emphasize that many desirable communities continue to grow precisely because they have clear, predictable development standards that protect long-term value. Those same priorities, community character, appropriate scale, and overall quality of life are reflective throughout the public input documented in the Comprehensive Development Plan. This reinforces the idea that thoughtful regulation can provide certainty and confidence benefiting homeowners, businesses, and the city alike. That perspective underpins the approach being taken here, preservation through clarity, not stagnation. Speaking a bit about architectural character, this slide captures one of the most consistent themes Dover Cole and Partners heard during their initial observations: concerns about architectural character, especially as it relates to height, perceived bulk, and the way buildings meet the street and the public realm. Dover Cole and Partners notes that this is a forever conflict in coastal communities. The pressure to build taller or larger for views and yield balanced against residents' desire to protect light, views, and the established feel of streets and neighborhoods. Just as important, Dover Cole and Partners' point is that character is rarely driven by one single rule. It often comes from the combined effect of multiple small standards, things like fences, yard coverage, balcony placement, porch enclosures, and even unclear definitions. Individually, these can seem minor, but collectively they shape what a street feels like and whether new development reads as compatible. This aligns closely with the CDP's direction on community character and pedestrian scale. The CDP states that the city's intent to protect small-town character, architecture, pedestrian orientation, and to support compatible development and redevelopment consistent with the scale of individual neighborhoods. It also includes goals to improve the quality and integrity of architecture in new and renovated residential and commercial structures, and to preserve the distinctive architecture and scale that define the city's sense of place. Practically, this is where a design guide and clear implementation tools become highly relevant. The CDP specifically discusses the value of commercial design guidelines and the benefit of published materials that explain architectural objectives, illustrate techniques, and set clearer expectations for applicants and the public. This is consistent with the direction we've discussed, using Dover Cole & Partners' expertise to help translate community character into clearer, more consistent standards, so we are not relying on piecemeal fixes or case-by-case debate to achieve outcomes the city already values. A bit into parking. Dover Cole frames parking as a question of balance rather than absolutes. One of their key observations is that if downtown Rehoboth Beach were required to meet suburban parking standards, much of what exists today simply could not have been built. Parking decisions shape building form, consume land that could otherwise be public space, and influence walkability and character. For that reason, parking is being examined as a part of a broader discussion about urban form and community expectations, not simply as a numerical requirement to be increased or decreased. This aligns with the CDP's emphasis on maintaining a pedestrian-oriented downtown. Particularly, it focuses on walkability, small-scale commercial streets, and a public realm that prioritizes people over vehicles. The CDP recognizes that access and parking are necessary, but consistently frames them as supporting elements that should be accommodated in ways that do not overwhelm building scale, streetscape character, or the overall quality of pedestrian experience. Why mixed use matters. Dover Cole & Partners' original presentation emphasized a goal of becoming a strong mixed income community. Mixed use buildings, particularly those with residential units above commercial space, support round-the-clock activity, eyes on the street safety, and consistent patronage of downtown businesses. This approach represents one of the most realistic ways to expand long-term housing opportunities without altering established residential neighborhoods, while also reinforcing walkability, economic vitality, and community character. This also aligns with the CDP's recognition that mixed-use development, especially in existing commercial areas, is a key strategy for expanding housing opportunities while maintaining neighborhood compatibility. The CDP emphasizes that concentrating housing within walkable mixed-use environments can support workforce and year-round residents, strengthen downtown vitality, and reduce pressure on surrounding residential areas, so long as building scale, form, and transitions are carefully managed. This piggybacks off nicely as well with Evan and I's more recent talks here involving the state's affordable, obtainable workforce housing and the technical assistance program. In terms of modernizing our land development regulations, this slide highlights where Dover Cole & Partners' expertise adds substantial value to the city's broader code development efforts. Dover Cole & Partners observed that many concerns about character do not stem from a single regulation, but from the cumulative effect of multiple small standards, such as height, bulk, setbacks, porches, fences, and even how again, our terms are defined. Individually, these provisions appear modest, but together they strongly shape streetscape quality, neighborhood feel, and overall development outcomes. In response, Dover Cole is exploring the development of, as I mentioned before, an architectural design guide for commercial areas that reflect Rehoboth Beach's historic patterns, scale, and relationship to the public realm. The city is also considering hybrid form-based code methods that could translate those design principles into enforceable standards rather than leaving them solely as an advisory guidance. This approach aligns directly with the CDP's plans call to strengthen the connection between adopted community character goals and the regulations that implement them. The CDP emphasizes the importance of clear, consistent development standards that protect small-scale character, reinforce pedestrian orientation, and ensure new development is compatible with its surroundings, objectives that are difficult to achieve through piecemeal dimensional controls alone. Almost done here. One of the things on collaboration and public involvement, this is where we'll be moving forward to in 2026. A central theme of Dover Cole & Partners' recommended approach is balancing strategic focus with broad inclusion. The intent is to ensure that complex regulatory and design questions are explored thoughtfully while still retaining grounded in community values. The proposed working group, approximately 8 to 11 individuals with experience in zoning, architecture, finance, business, and development, provides a forum for informed, technically grounded discussion. Dover Cole would guide these conversations with city assistance, drawing on best practices from comparable communities and helping translate local insight into workable concepts. This process closely reflects the CDP's emphasis on inclusive public engagement, coordination among boards and stakeholders, and transparency in decision-making. The CDP makes clear that meaningful public involvement is essential when evaluating changes that affect community character, development patterns, and quality of life. Just as importantly, the outputs of the working group would be shared with the broader community through surveys, workshops, and other engagement tools, ensuring that residents, business owners, workers, and visitors all have opportunities to provide input before any recommendations move forward. Dover Cole and Partners framework emphasizes a phased and disciplined approach to implementation rather than attempting to address all issues at once. As we move into 2026, the work begins with focused review and technical analysis, followed by structured stakeholder engagement and refinement throughout the year. This sequencing allows the city to distinguish between straightforward corrective items and more complex policy questions that require broader discussion and careful evaluation. This timeline represents the city's goal and provides a clear planning framework, but is intentionally flexible and dependent on several variables, including the pace of stakeholder engagement, coordination with city boards and commissions, and the complexity of the issues identified. Most importantly, this approach aligns with the CDP's role as the guiding framework for land use policy. By timing this work to inform the Planning Commission's comprehensive plan update in 2027, the city ensures that future zoning, design standards, and regulatory changes are grounded in adopted policy and coordinated through a single coherent planning process. I want to close by emphasizing that this initiative is not limited to correcting internal code conflicts. That work, such as addressing inconsistencies in our different chapters, is important and ongoing, but represents only the foundation. Through our partnership with Dover Cole and Partners, the city is undertaking a comprehensive examination of how zoning, design standards, mapping, and policy work together to protect Rehoboth Beach's character and long-term health. This includes aligning our code with the comprehensive plan and strategic plan, listening carefully to community concerns, and modernizing outdated provisions so they function as intended and remain effective over time. The contract with Dover Cole is meaningful because it supports a deliberate, community-guided process, one that moves beyond technical cleanup and positions the city to implement durable, well-considered solutions with confidence and clarity as we move into the next comprehensive plan cycle. With that, I'll take questions. Again, I know that a lot of the stuff I discussed wasn't necessarily in the slides.
Thank you, Corey. Just one quick thing. So this is kind of a primer to our meeting that we'll have in January. We'll roll up our sleeves then with Joe Cole, but yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner Saunders?
That was my question. You've mentioned several times about their presentation, but I must have been absent that day. I don't remember them making a presentation to us, the commissioners.
Workshop in January.
They were here?
Coming up.
Oh, wow.
They will.
Next
They will be here, yes.
I think that they're...
And just an observation that they're very expensive, and so far it seems like they've just copied our CDP word for word. I mean, are we getting our money's worth here?
So far, we've only had in phase one, they have spent a total of $16,000. That had to include time up here. So that's what's been spent total. This is, we're looking, it's I would say it's fluid right now as far as phase two goes, which is why we haven't gone into phase two yet, which is the outreach and implementation. But this is their first findings, and what I'm hoping to get out of Dover Cole is their expertise in in a commercial architectural design guide and assistance with a possible hybrid form-based code so that we have something that would regulate how the buildings look rather than our conventional zoning.
To get back to the money, though, if I recall, we had a contract, or we okayed a contract with them for $195,000. Is that correct?
So the contract is, it's in phases with milestones and deliverables. So this first phase was exploratory for them to learn about our community, about our code, what we stand for. The next piece, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't have it up in front of me, but it is to then recommend the actual changes that we can move forward implementing.
I'm glad to hear they're going to be meeting with us, because as you know, as I spoke to you about, I was a little annoyed. They came to town, talked to the Chamber of Commerce, they talked to the Homeowners Association, they talked to the realtors, but they didn't talk to us. And I thought they should have done better. That's it.
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Thayer, and then Commissioner Good.
Thank you, Mayor. So first off, I really appreciate the presentation. It was a great presentation. For me, it not necessarily filled in a lot of gaps. I guess to some extent it filled in a lot of gaps, but it really clarified what the initiative is. Prior to this, I think like Commissioner Saunders said, you know, we hadn't seen a presentation, so to some extent, we really didn't have a lot of information. The only information, you know, we had, at least some of us had who have seen it, is the contract. So the contract is, it's $157,000. Taylor can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I have it here. It's not $195,000. So I think it brings up a good point about the money, about the cost, right? So when we did the budget last year, I supported, along with others up here, putting additional funds in the budget for the purpose of getting the code rewritten. Okay, we didn't, you know, specifically say you should hire a planner. We didn't say you should. We shouldn't. Didn't say you should. Didn't say you shouldn't. I am glad that you hired a planner, right? So I fully support that. So I don't want my comment that I just made to come across as I don't support hiring Dover Cole. I absolutely do support hiring them. When I look at the contract and I look at, you know, things like begins code review, you know, initiates implementation, it's very hard for me to determine whether these things are in this $157,000 contract or not in the $157,000 contract. So what I'd like to propose, Mayor, right, really for the purpose of expediting the conversation today, discussion today, is Taylor's already indicated he's coming back for the workshop meeting. We do have the budget meetings upcoming, so to the extent that at those meetings, you could provide some additional clarification around what's in the contract related to these things, as well as what we may need to, additional funds we may need to come up with in the future. So, Mayor, I'd like to suggest that, if it's okay with you, we table at least those parts of the discussion, allow Mr. Tedder to come back. I'm getting a head nod from Mr. Saunders. Come back at the workshop meeting or even during the budget cycle and provide that information. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Again, great presentation. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Commissioner Good.
Thank you. So yes, Commissioner Saunders is not mistaken. There hadn't been any engagement with the Board of Commissioners, maybe with the exception of the mayor. I just heard about a couple dinners with the consultants by top
What with the
administrators.
exception of the mayor?
Well, I'm not sure whether maybe you met with Dover.
Well, don't make any
Oh,
assumptions. Do not make
I didn't
any
make
assumptions.
I specifically said I'm not sure. That's like hypothetical. So let's move on from that. My point is that the consultant met with a couple organizations, right? I do recall, I appreciate Commissioner Saunders, trying to figure out the amount. We finally gotten the precise amount, $157,000. I would just like to state for the record, Mr. Tedder told me a couple months ago that that's the cap, that's the max. And looking at this boilerplate, present PowerPoint they've provided so far, I have to say I'm underwhelmed. But I want to make sure we keep tabs on this, and it makes me nervous for Commissioner Thayer to be now talking about we may need additional funds for this consultant, which so far it does not. I don't see. I mean, having them get up to speed on our parameters, I don't think that should take that long. In the sense that there are a lot of resort towns of our scale, so I'm disappointed that the product so far is underwhelming and rather pedestrian, if you ask me. I mean, I saw it when it was embedded in the agenda a couple days ago. So let's make sure that, you know, Mr. Tedder's expressed promise that we will keep them to this 157,000. We mean it. We don't, you know, because they can't get a product that is what we need for under 157,000, we have a problem.
Anybody else? Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. So I would also like to say it was a great presentation, and I think we need to conceive of this more as a process as opposed to just outputs. So yes, we're all trying to get a code that's consistent and modern, but the expert portion of this is guiding us, the community, through your office in developing the kind of land use code that we want to see. Patrick and I had a great meeting with developers a week and a half or so ago who said we would be building workforce housing except for a couple provisions of a code. The commercial code's not predictable. It's not, you know this, not predictable, not consistent. We have a couple spots that make sort of workforce housing impossible here, and they'd be easy to fix. We have a situation where we have hotels now are 50% bigger than our FAR allows, our code. We have to get on top of this, but it's kind of like my business in financial planning. It's not the output. It's not the document you get. It's the process, and having an expert guide that to reasonable solutions is a big deal, and we need to take it where it goes. And we need to be smart about money. But, you know, this is long overdue.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Thank you, Corey.
If I may, Mayor?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gossett?
Yeah, I appreciate the presentation, Corey. I know it's taken a lot to get to this point. And a couple of the issues that you brought out about one size does not fit all. We have, as was put together in the year 2000, a neighborhood preservation ordinance that described 5 different neighborhoods, but we have one set of codes that apply to all of them. And I think one of the things, this meeting that we had with a local developer, is that individuals, as we've heard today about the commercial aspect and people, this is our business and you're preventing us from doing business, we have to look concerned with that certainly, but look in 5 and 10 or 20 years from now, what we want Rehoboth to look like and providing those codes and those bases to do this. This is a process, and we up here do not have the expertise to do that. We know our community, and we can inform them of particulars and uniquenesses about Rehoboth, but these are professionals that have an opportunity to provide us with a presence of what this town is going to look like in 10 and 20 years from now. And I think that we all need to be supportive of this process going forward. I'm understanding about concerns on money and what have you, but kind of look back of how much has this town, city spent defending our codes. How much money have we spent with regards to being sued by developers because the codes were unclear and how they were determined and how they were interpreted? This process will help correct that. Nothing's going to be perfect because every time you do something that you feel is good, somebody's going to figure out a way around it, certainly. But right now, our codes are so draconian. They were written in the 70s. This town does not look like it did in the 70s when these codes were written. And it's not going to look like this town right now in 2075 when some of these codes may be surviving. So I understand your concern of money spent, but if you look at this as an investment, not as a spending tool, it is a process. And I think that Mr. Cole is very well-versed in this and has done a lot of work to other municipalities to brought them forward into the next vision of their community. One of the comments, and I'll just share that one of the developers here has said, we've had a lot of people come to Rehoboth and the general area, and one of the things that brought them there were the beautiful restaurants and that dining facilities and dining scene in Rehoboth. And they now are in the process of retiring. They were just down here on weekends and what have you. But the ages are shifting. So they're going to be looking for downtown walkability. They're going to be looking for a dry cleaner. They're going to be looking for a theater. They're going to be looking for a bank. They're going to be looking for a pharmacy. That's the reason they're moving here. And the value of having that in town here will sustain and increase the value of properties in this community like nobody knows. And that character that city brought many of us here because of how the character of Rehoboth is established. We need to maintain that and carry that forward, but that's the value that we have, and that's what this type of organization of Dover Cole and other individuals involved with will maintain and sustain and improve that property value that we have, and also bringing those commercial entities into the town that we need.
Thank you. Any members of the public want to say anything? Dave, Kate? Corey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to the next item of new business is consideration of appointments to the Rehoboth Beach Boardwalk Historical Designation Task Force. There is a agenda item report embedded in the agenda, and I guess I want to have a reminder to the public as well as ourselves that a lot of work goes in by the sponsor of topics into these agenda item reports. And it would behoove us to read them all as much as we can and study them ahead of time so that it shortens our meetings. So rather than go over the whole thing here, I want to say briefly as chair that we had 23 people apply. It was overwhelming. I didn't think we would get but a third of that. And if you recall, the original number was 7 to 9. Well, we were able to get 9 in-town people with excellent level of experience. And then, if you recall, we had invitees made a recommendation from the Boardwalk Committee, and they're listed on there. So what I'm looking forward is a motion to approve the slate nominated by the chair that's in front of us for the Boardwalk Historic Designation Task Force.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the slate before us of the Boardwalk Historic Designation Task Force members. Is there any discussion? Is there any comment by the public? Nope. All those in favor signify. Oh, I'm sorry, Suzanne.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess I'm disappointed, and I presume people recommended people for this, and you couldn't pick everybody. But I am disappointed that there's only one woman on this, because I know the person I recommended has the qualifications, matches the qualifications. So I'm just a little sensitive to that, because the diversity of viewpoints is a good thing.
Thank you. There are Heidi and Kate and Rosemary are invitees, but I hear you. Thank you. With that, all those in favor of the motion signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and the motion is carried unanimously. Next item of business is to discuss the potential to expand the types of actions that may be taken at monthly Board of Commissioners meetings to enhance efficiency and public transparency, including whether votes may occur at multiple meetings each month. Excuse me. If you recall, the agenda language is derived from proposals introduced by Commissioner Stewart and Thier at their November 19th regular meeting. I am focusing on what I deem the 3 main proposals presented at that meeting. Number 1, every meeting would be a voting meeting. Number 2, we are to introduce an agenda topic and vote on it at the first meeting, i.e. at the same meeting it's introduced. Number 3, if the topic is not concluded at the first meeting, then it must be carried to the very next meeting and concluded that second meeting. Current and past practice, going back to at least the 1960s, has been that any meeting labeled a workshop signals to everyone that is only for discussions of noticed topics and not for voting. My understanding for having or retained this process of workshops being non-voting has been that the new agenda topics are introduced during a non-voting workshop meeting, and the earliest a vote could take place on the same topic would be at the next upcoming regular voting meeting. With a nearly 2-week gap between introduction and a vote, this allows for reporting on the topic in the media, the TV, newspaper, city bulletins, and thus alerting our constituents in the time between meetings. Such media articles historically have included reporting on the topic broadly, but also reports on commissioner discussions of that topic and constituent reactions and feedback from our constituents on the topic, all of which better informs our constituents. I've liked this method. This method works well. It's easy to administer. It's easy for constituents to understand. Workshop means non-voting. And there was a mention of what other municipalities do, and I researched them. It wasn't very helpful because you can look out there and find the municipality that supports whatever your view is, you know. There's Dover that has 2 meetings a month, and they're both voting meetings. You have Dewey Beach that only has 1 meeting a month, and it's a voting meeting, obviously. And that's all based on workload. But then you've got other municipalities that are like us and have a workshop and a regular voting meeting, et cetera. So it's really, I didn't find it that helpful. But I want to let you know, I've heard you. I'm willing to make some changes if the commissioners and the public consensus agrees, although I believe adoption of the 3 main proposals that I mentioned in literal interpretation could lead to times when the discussion would be rushed or a vote would be rushed to the detriment of our constituents. I am sure constituents would love shorter meetings, but they also want sufficient background and sufficient time to cogitate and voice their opinions. I would only feel comfortable introducing and voting at the same meeting when topics are simplistic and have support documents available prior to the meeting. This is probably a minimum of topics we address over the year. There aren't that many, but some examples would be awarding of project bids, which we've been doing for over a year now. Making appointments to sit on a commission, board, task force, or committees. We've also been doing that for the past year. So we have doing some, but as we go forward, we can certainly look to identifying other things that maybe are appropriate that can be introduced and voted on in the same meeting, provided they have support documents that are simple and easy to understand. So I believe introducing and voting at the same meeting would not work, though, on such recent topics as the bandstand traffic closures. Look at that. It's hard to even count how many times did we do it. We even threw in there an advisory committee meeting from the Chamber of Commerce, et cetera. But I'm open to and have been investigating ways to quicken topic discussions and come to conclusions sooner than later without sacrificing constituent opportunities for awareness and input. But I'd like to soften the messaging a bit. Let's streamline our discussions of agenda topics by allowing for 2 voting meetings per month. And to do this, first we need to notify our constituents of a change in labeling our meetings, which replace workshops. So we would omit the word workshop, and in its place we'll use commissioners' meeting. While workshop has indicated in the past a non-voting meeting, commissioners' meeting will become known for allowing discussion and possibility of consideration, as would be articulated for each applicable agenda topic, as is done now for the regular meetings. This would result in retaining the standard regular commissioners meeting on the 3rd Friday of the month, but swap a commissioners meeting for the workshop meeting, thus allowing for the opportunity to vote in 2 meetings per month, provided doing so is articulated in the agenda. It's got to be listed there. So again, we'd be replacing the workshop label with the label commissioners meeting, And as we already do for the regular commissioners meeting, we would clarify in the agenda what actions might be expected for each of the agenda topics. It would either say discuss something, which limits us to discussion only, or it would say discuss and possible consideration, which allows for discussion and the opportunity to vote if ready. This articulates for each agenda the possible actions or the exclusion of certain actions for each agenda topic. I've heard proposals about shortening the duration of topics. We'll do our best to maintain momentum, yet we need to be mindful that what will dictate when an agenda topic will again appear on agenda is really the complexity of the topic, the amount of homework needed, the workload, and other factors. So these, I call them massaged proposals, will enhance efficiency without sacrificing public awareness and transparency. So now I'd like to hear from other commissioners, preferably beginning with the commissioners that have not yet to speak. Then I'd like to go to the members of the public before coming back to everybody at that point. So are there any commissioners that want to speak? Well, I'm trying to go to the other ones first that haven't spoken before. Did you, I don't recall.
Did I speak all that?
I don't think you spoke up. Go ahead.
Good. I just want to say that one of the reasons that I support this and thought it was a great idea is the redundancy when we have a certain topic and we hear a presentation on it, 15, 20 minutes, and then 2 weeks later, we hear the exact same presentation. I mean, that seems to me redundant, and that's, in my opinion, what we want to avoid.
Well,
I'm not trying to cut out the public.
We've already talked about that internally, and I think that example is one example. None of us disagree. That's right. So now we have an awareness that we don't have to, Evan's nodding his head, that we don't have to repeat everything verbatim from the beginning. And if we've gone over it the first time, it is a support document, probably the first meeting, and it's probably a support document the second meeting, then yes, let's recognize that, and because that would cut a lot of time off.
Okay, thank you.
The meeting. So can we go to the public and then we'll come back to
Mr. Mayor,
everybody?
can I
Or
just jump in real
Commissioner
quick?
Galante, yes, sir.
So the last time this topic was brought up, I spoke in favor of it. After giving it some additional consideration, I do have some concerns about unintended consequences from pushing things through too quickly and not soliciting input from the community. I've spoken to a number of members from the community. They made valid points to me. I think there's validity in giving time to voting. And so you went through your presentation and I thought it was helpful, but could you please restate what the criteria are for things that get voted on the same day that we hear them versus things that get pushed to the regular meeting?
I'm not sure what you mean by, yeah.
So I think
They're
a
both
good
voting meetings, but
example-
I'm just talking about the topics. Like, what topics would we vote on the day that we hear the topic being presented versus a topic that we feel needs more consideration, more evaluation, more consultation, and would be voted on at a subsequent meeting?
Well, it's really to be determined, but some of the criteria that I've come up with so far is if there's a support document available and it's embedded in the agenda sufficient time ahead. Remember, I don't know if you all remember, but we reevaluated deadlines for submittal of support documents about about 2 or 3 months ago, and we said it's a day earlier or 2 days earlier than what we've been doing. We used to embed documents 5, 6 times, and now we do it twice, and that's it. So it's more of a discipline, and I think we're doing a better job. But a support document needs to be available, and then something that I say simplistic. It's got to be a simple thing that the public can understand in the first shot. And maybe it's already been a topic that's been discussed before, like during the budget. We have already approved $450,000 asphalt the roads this year, and maybe that award is coming up. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think a good way to think about it is routine business-like things. So last year we changed our cleaning contract for City Hall. It saved a lot of money. That would be a great example of a contract that you could simply award at a meeting, whether it's the regular or the commissioners meeting. That wouldn't need to be coming back. A good example of something coming back is the Bandstand Concert Series, because we were in a methodical process getting more information based on your direction. And then on the actual regular meeting agenda, it will say either for presentation or for possible action, something of that nature, where you would, someone from the public would be able to know if the commissioners even have the ability to vote, because if it's not agendized to vote, you can't under FOIA.
Mr. Mayor.
Suzanne wanted to speak, and then I'll come to you. I'm sorry, Suzanne.
Thank you for recognizing me. So I appreciate the input, and I just want to make sure I understand. So why are we just calling all the meetings commissioner meetings?
Well, let me explain there. The third Friday of the month is a commissioners
Meeting.
regular meeting, and we will retain that. Why? Because in the charter, there are references to the regular meetings. The organizational meeting, for instance, isn't that the first regular meeting in September? So we've got to retain that. So we don't want to have two regular meetings. So the workshop meeting will be changed to just a commissioners meeting.
Okay, thank you. And then, so all meetings potentially live as long as it's noticed properly. What I'd hoped to have
Meetings are,
live for a vote if, for items within the agenda, if they're properly noticed.
if the agenda
Okay.
says it. yes.
I had hoped today that staff was going to talk a little bit about, I don't believe taking this step and as a goal for efficiency is inconsistent or incongruent with welcoming and wanting public input and notice. And I had hoped that we would hear the ways the city is going to outreach to notice that the change is happening itself, and then make sure people are aware of the future calendar. And, because I had to text Commissioner Thier the other day, and I'm like, where's the future agenda calendar? And he goes, oh, you have to go to the meeting and click on it. I think it needs to be very prominent, because people can sort of follow the progress of a topic that might be out 4 months, that sort of steps in and then becomes a live thing, because I don't want to stifle public input. And I really appreciate your help, Mayor, on that. And so I think you've done a terrific job. Thank you.
So I do want to address that really quick. So our communications manager, Brooke, has been doing a really great job of providing a digest of what's coming up on the next meeting. So we did put that on our homepage on the website in the carousel. I think it's the third item that it cycles through. When you click into that, it's almost like a story of what the commissioners are going to consider. And at the bottom, it also has a link to the future agenda planner or calendar, whatever you want to call it. And so we wanted to make sure that was even easier for people to get to without going in Civic Web and navigating to the agenda or the folder, et cetera. And then she's also been doing almost a report after the meeting or in real time of things that, the action the commissioners have taken.
So we'll go to the public,
Mr.
but we'll do Commissioner Good next.
Thank
Were you done?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've absolutely been on board for this because I think it will obviate all the special meetings, which became very inefficient for Ms. Womack to reset things. And, this way we have the ability to vote. I was disappointed today. For instance, we discussed the bandstand concerts, I believe November 21st. While we didn't have the Chamber's forum feedback at that point, we had it available at the workshop on December 8th. But instead, we're like throwing it back to staff. Like, I hope finally this more streamlined approach will allow us, because the public's had a lot of notice about the bandstand, reconsideration of the bandstand concerts because of the adverse impact on those ocean block businesses. Mr. Flood has covered it in the Cape Gazette. Actually, he seemed to have more information than I did about how we're keeping the 3 concerts. I don't have an answer as to how the communications department and other people were so certain of that. Well, maybe now I know. But I felt today, this is a voting meeting. The motion that was presented was just to have the staff come back with additional ideas, maybe, I guess, to move 3 or 4 of the 13 Saturday night concerts. I don't even know what the staff has been told. They know how I feel about it, but they will probably ignore that. But, so I hope this is a step in the right direction, and it can't be any worse than the current morass that we seem to, have topics go on for months without any resolution, that's for sure.
Anybody else? Before we go to the public? Your time.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. So are there topics that can be discussed and voted on in a single meeting? Absolutely. Are there topics that should require more than one meeting? Definitely. I believe that if this change is put into place without more guidelines, that you will stifle public comment. You all took an oath. In that oath, you acknowledged that the powers of the office flow from the people that you represent. You swore to always place public input above any special or personal interest. How do you do that if there's no time between a topic being presented and when it is voted on? The agenda item reports only tell you so much. You don't get the feel for what everybody else thinks or what twist might occur in the actual motion that gets made. But not all of you comment before the public gets up and speaks either. And we're only allowed to get up one time. We cannot get back up and refute something you've said or make an additional comment to try to change your mind. So by having a topic presented at one meeting and the vote the next meeting, we have an opportunity to make our voices heard through letters or through reaching out to each of you individually. Some of you are a lot more accessible than others, and so we have to have time to do that. Rushed votes have unintended consequences. I'm sure you all saw the article in the Cape Gazette where Lewis is already trying to rescind a vote that they took on December 8th. And they happen to have done it related to items that had been talked about, but they changed the flavor of that topic before they voted and realized it had unintended consequences. I spoke to one resident about this, and you know what the response was I got? Well, if I don't like their vote, I'll just sue them. That doesn't help us. That costs all of us more money. I believe change can be good, but I also think there has to be specific guidelines on the types of things that can be voted on in a single meeting. I fully support items that were talked about in the budget, and you need to approve something related specifically to that item. That should be fine. But when you're talking about technical changes or regulations that affect taxpayers, you need to give them an opportunity to voice their opinion. And one of the ways to do that is to hear what's going on and then get to people before that next meeting. So while I think change can be good, I think there needs to be work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Dave?
Good afternoon, Dave Diefendorfer, city resident. This lectern, by the way, is fabulous. Thank you very much, because you can put your notes here so you're not leaning over. So I agree 100% with the attempt to speed up the decisions. Absolutely, right? In the past, some of the decisions are a little slow, and with good reason, because you guys want to figure it out, and you want to figure it out correctly. It takes time. However, I disagree with making most of these decisions in one meeting. like it's been mentioned here, some of the decisions can get knocked out and move on. I agree with that. But some of these decisions need to be thought about. So just a couple reasons for that is you just need to allow people who don't live here to comment and follow up on what's going on. When I was in the military, working my civilian job, traveling the world, there was no way, no how could I monitor what was going on here. I didn't have the time, just couldn't do it. I get a lot of the information from Cape Gazette. It's fabulous. That's how a lot of people that are property owners that don't live in Rehoboth follow up, and then they end up calling me. A couple of people will say, "What's going on?" Well, I just saw this in Cape Gazette. Well, they're doing this and next meeting and whatever. So I think that's a good thing. Just give it a little bit of time. Just gives you more time to make informed decisions. It gives us time to email everybody, and like my wife said, some of you get right back to us, "Hey, that's a great idea," or "I'll think about it." Some of you don't, and then we just don't know because you guys don't have enough time. You're volunteering here. Let's face it. So anyway, that's just my thoughts. I agree with what the mayor had his plans that he's putting forth to try to speed things up, but do it effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Well, again, did you want to say anything, Kate? Again, I think these massage proposals will enhance efficiency without sacrificing public awareness and transparency. So I'm going to try it, and I think you'll be happy with it.
If I may, I don't disagree with the aspect of allowing votes at every meeting that is held by the mayor and commissioners. My concern is that, again, transparency in the subject matter. And I heard of what you presented, not completely for or against it at this point. I think it needs more specificity in the aspect of what is happening and what isn't happening. There are questions about, well, what about this? What about that? Here's an example. So if you could present, or staff present, or a combination thereof, specifically a policy or procedure of how this will go forward, so that we're all clear, not only here on the commission, but also the public. There are tools out there that can be used to better speed up an agenda, manage an agenda in a more timely manner, and I'll share those with you at some point in the future. But I think whatever we do going forward needs to have a policy and procedure, written policy and procedure, so that this does not decide to change in a year or 2 years, that there is something that we all understand, everybody involved in, of how to establish an agenda. And one of the things that would be very important to me is that if an agenda item is indicated, as your language states, that perhaps voting on this, that agenda item report must be submitted 7 days in advance, that it cannot be the Monday before the meeting or the Tuesday before the meeting. It has to be that full Friday before the meeting, so that everybody, public, commissioners, individuals, have the opportunity to review that material as much in advance as possible, and that's at 7 days. If something were to slip a few days by that, I think that would be an option, that it would be pulled from the agenda, that it would not be discussed. It would have to be gone to the next meeting. But I think it is imperative that that transparency exists and that 7-day window exists on any items that are to be voted upon at the same meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
if I
We'll
could,
take
please.
it into consideration.
If I could, please.
Commissioner, Good first, and then you.
So I don't think we need to overthink this, and I think technology has completely transformed some of the issues that people are, seem to be overly anxious about. For example, as long as something is noticed by, say, 7 days, as is required, I've been traveling in Europe and watched city meetings or planning commission meetings, and there are opportunities for those who may be as far away as, Europe or wherever else to participate. So I'm not sure we need to worry as much, given that every Airbnb we've ever rented in France or Switzerland has, Wi-Fi. So I think we have to move into the modern age and assume that the public who wants to be informed, I know people who are watching from Northern Virginia right now. They're second homeowners. So those who want to be engaged and keep informed, subscribe to the Cape Gazette, do the things to, enable themselves to be participants. So I just want to put that out there, that I think I don't want to get all worried about people having inadequate ability in 7 days to get their acts together.
Thank you. Commissioner Thier?
Thank you, Mayor. So I just want to talk just very quickly about the future agenda items topics. The list, which is new, something I pushed for, as well as some of the other commissioners just a few months ago. Yes, future agenda items topic. I had pushed for this because simply I couldn't do my job, right? I'm only finding out what was going to be on the agenda 7 days in advance. And we were lucky if we got the agenda item report 2 or 3 business days before that. So you just couldn't prepare. And I felt that that was one of the reasons why topics just dragged on multiple meetings. So this is a huge step forward for us, but I think it's important that, we continue to make the commitment to keep this updated, and everyone needs to understand this is kind of part of the change management. So watch the future agenda items list. You'll know what's coming up. This gives you lots of opportunities to plan, to participate, to comment, to reach out to us, to reach out to Mr. Tedder. And then from an organization perspective, I think a lot of this does fall on the city manager and the city solicitor, and making sure that, I said this last time, and I used housing as an example, making sure that when the agenda's coming up, you're prepared. I think as Commissioner Gossett said, sorry, Patrick, get the agenda item reports attached that full 7 days in advance, right? Make sure that your team is ready with the presentation. We give the presentation one time, and then, I think all of us up here can decide whether we're going to vote in that meeting or if we need to postpone the vote, right? Not another discussion to the subsequent meeting to allow additional input. I think it's change management. I think it's going to be a learning process for all of us. But I think the most important thing here is pay attention. We got to keep this updated. Got to commit to keeping this updated. Then all the residents, as well as all of us up here, there's that transparency, and we can keep track and know what's coming up. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I've already been to y'all. Thank you very much. We want to move on to future agenda topics. Anything new? Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to propose that we have an executive session next time we meet, and can properly notice it, to discuss personnel issue, specifically work environment.
Specifically?
The work environment, hostile work environment.
All right, we'll take that into consideration. Anything else? Anything else?
I have, Commissioner comment. Well, two things. I sense a
No,
lot
this
of
is future.
hostility from Commissioner Stewart, so maybe that is a timely executive session.
This is future agenda
Sorry,
topics.
sorry. Well, I support maybe this executive session in the sense that you expressed a lot of visceral hostility toward me about an hour ago. It sort of threw me for a loop.
That's plenty. Anybody else? Commissioner
Yeah,
Thier?
I agree with Commissioner Stewart. I think we should consider having an executive session at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, review future meeting dates. I just want to remind everybody that our next workshop is Monday, January 5th at 9 o'clock. And the first budget meeting starts January 16th at 9 a.m. With that, we'll go to citizen comment. Are there any, that's you. Nobody wants to speak. Commissioner announcements and comments.
Mayor, if I may.
Commissioner
Just
Gossett.
Yes, just want to add compliments to Brooke Thaler, Communications Director, for the new outreach tool Beyond the Beach. I think has been very well received. It is a very comprehensive quick and dirty of what's going on and gives people much information and also links to go if they want to dig deeper into what's happening in the city. But I think Beyond the Beach has been a great addition to the communications here in the city. Thank you.
Did you hear that? Okay, good. Commissioner, good? Did
Yeah,
you
I
want
would
to?
like to highlight that I believe Chabad of Southern Delaware, which is based out of Lewis, Delaware, will be hosting a Hanukkah menorah lighting on Sunday, the last night of Hanukkah, at the Bandstand. And this is, as I think everyone knows, a fraught year for Hanukkah observation, given what happened, the jihad or whatever that, at Bondi Beach in Australia. So the public is warmly invited, both Jews and non-Jews. I believe there will be latkes, donuts, and possibly Hanukkah gelt. Yeah, so it's great for children and adults alike, at 5 p.m. on Sunday at the Bandstand.
Thank you. With that, no further business. This meeting is adjourned at, exactly 5 o'clock.
Touche.
No, really.
Like, well before 5.